Alright, ladies and gentlemen, please turn on your camera. Our event is about to begin. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. To all of the honorable guests, ladies and gentlemen. A very good morning to our honorable Dr. Intan Nadia Ghulam, Deputy Dean of Academic and International Affairs, FSU USIM, and to our distinguished speaker, Dr. Farid bin Mohd Hassan, as a Senior Lecturer of Faculty of Sharia and Law. Welcome to the USIM Mooting Workshop program. Before we proceed, allow me to introduce myself. I am Nur Ila Sharifah from the Faculty of Sharia and Law, will be your MC today on behalf of the organizing committee, USIM Mooting Club. It's truly our pleasure to welcome all of you here in this session. First and foremost, from the bottom of my heart, I would like to thank you for joining our program today. Ladies and gentlemen, to begin our program, I would like to call upon Muhammad Zul Aizat to conduct the Dua recitation.
إلى حضرة النبي المصطفى رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم وعلى آله وصحبه الكرام شيء لله الفاتحة. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم اجعل جمعنا هذا جمعا مرحوما وتفرقنا من بعده تفرقا معصوما ولا تجعل اللهم فينا ولا معنا شقيا ولا محروما. اللهم اجعلنا من أهل الخير وجعلنا من أهل البركة وجعلنا من أهل المغفرة. اللهم اجعلنا من أهل الجنة وجعلنا من أهل البركة من أهل الفردوس الأعلى برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم اجعل مجلسنا هذا مجلسا مباركا لأصحابنا وأهلنا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين والحمد لله رب العالمين.
Amin, Amin, Ya Rabbal Alamin. Thank you, Muhammad Zulaizat, for the Dua recitation. Now we would like to invite Dr. Intan Nadia Ghulam as the Deputy Dean of Academic and International Affairs to deliver her welcoming remarks and officiate the USIM Mooting Workshop program. Please welcome.
Okay. Thank you very much, okay, Miss MC. Okay, Dr. Farid Muhammad Hassan, our senior lecturer, Mr. Abdul Hakim, our USIM Mooting Club President, FSU students, okay, Tamhidi students, participants, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and a very good morning. Okay, allow me to take this opportunity to welcome all of you to this USIM Moot Workshop 2021. Okay, mooting is an important co-curricular activity that law students can participate in to allow increase abilities and develop skills and confidence in what? Okay, to present a legal argument in a court setting, okay, to enhance advocacy and public speaking, okay, to enhance teamwork, organization, okay, to assimilate facts, okay, facts into arguments, to put legal issues into context, okay, to enhance skills in legal writing and legal research, and of course, okay, to enhance critical analysis. Skills gained through mooting can help to improve overall understanding and knowledge of certain areas of law, which is useful for students' academic study and also future legal career, inshallah. Hence, this Moot workshop is a significant program to boost law students' interest, okay, in mooting. So I would like to take this opportunity to thank Dr. Farid Muhammad Hassan, who is willing to share his experience and tips, okay, on mooting today, okay, which according to the schedule, I have seen the schedule, okay, you have, okay, the sharing session, okay, on the preparation also tips to enhance the advocacy skills. Okay, so I think that is very much comprehensive to cover all aspects of mooting. So as we know, Dr. Farid has vast experience in mooting as former mooter who have involved in various international and national competitions. He is a moot trainer, moot course lecturer, and judge in international and national moot competitions. So inshallah participants will find this program a beneficial and impactful one. So at this juncture also, and on behalf of the faculty, I would like to thank USIM Mooting Club for organizing this program and continuing to assist the faculty in our endeavors to prepare our students to join mooting competitions. And the organizing committee, I know they have worked tirelessly to make this program a success. So welcome to this particular program, and I officiate the program and I end with wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Intan and Ghulam for your wonderful speech. And now it's our pleasure to invite Mr. Abdul Hakim, President of USIM Mooting Club, to deliver his speech. Please welcome.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum. First of all, I wish to extend my gratitude to Dr. Intan Nadia Ghulam, Deputy Dean of Academic and International Affairs of Faculty of Sharia and Law, USIM, and Dr. Farid Mohd Hassan, Senior Lecturer at Faculty of Sharia and Law. And then to Organizing Committee, USIM Mooting Club, all participants who are willingly to join USIM Mooting Workshop. And okay, it's kind of awkward for me because it's several times, but it's I believe that all of you are having difficulties with MCO 2.0 and having your and having opportunity to see all of you in Zoom today is kind of ease my heart, because I think that all of us are coping with this MCO, and I believe that I hope that this MCO will give a positive outcome, even though we have around 4,000 cases yesterday, if I'm not mistaken. And I'm delighted also to have Dr. Intan Nadia, who is my previous lecturer for constitutional law subject, and I learned a lot from her. And to all participants, especially Tamhidi students, during my times in foundation, there is no such program which invite Tamhidi students and to introduce on mooting and advocacy skill. And I believe this program will give a huge impact to and develop our law students from USIM. And as you can see in the poster, it is included SDG, Sustainable Development Goals 4 and 8, which is about the quality of education and academic growth. And I really hope that this program will enhance the quality of law students, and for those who have an eye to be a legal practitioner or to embark or to involve in legal fields, I really hope that this program will spark your motivation and to enhance your individual skills. And then for your information, in Malaysia we have several mooting competition. We begin with the JSEP, the most difficult mooting competition that USIM joined, and then ISL, International Humanitarian Law Mooting Competition, Law Asia Arbitration Competition, NAMCO Arbitration Mooting Competition, and then finally we have IMCC, the mooting competition that USIM Mooting Club conducted, and it is expected to be conducted on May or June this year. And I really hope everyone who participate this program will be one of the participants for IMCC. I think that's all from me. I really hope that you guys will enjoy this program, and congratulations to all USIM Mooting Club committee for your effort to join and to organize this mooting competition at this program. That's all from me.
Thank you, Mr. Abdul Hakim, for the speech given. Ladies and gentlemen, in order to capture this wonderful moment into our memories, we would like to invite all of you to have a virtual photo session together. All of you may turn on your camera as we're going to have virtual photo session.
Okay, I will count from 1 to 3, so that we can prepare to take a picture. Okay. All right. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Once again. 1, 2, 3. Smile. Okay. Wait. Wait. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Smile. Okay. This is the last one. Okay. You can do freestyle or anything else. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Smile. Okay. Thank you, everyone.
Right, thank you everyone, especially to our honorable guest, Dr. Intan, Nadia, Ghulam, for willing to join and give a wonderful welcoming remarks. So before we begin, allow me to tell you about the background of Dr. Farid bin Mohd Hassan as our respected speaker of today. As we know, Dr. Farid is a lecturer of Faculty of Sharia and Law. Among his participation in mooting during his studies were Philip C. Jessup, International Law Moot Comparison in 2006 and 2009, and International Humanitarian Law Moot Court Comparison back in 2007, 2008, and 2010. Now he actively involved in mooting comparisons, acting as a judge in Philip C. Jessup International Law Moot Comparison in the World Championship 2020 until 2021, and Asia Pacific Regional Rounds in 2021. He also served as a judge in Novice Arbitration Mooting Comparison, NAMCO, and Intramural Moot Court Comparison, IMCC. Apart from that, he was appointed as a speaker in Mooting Workshop in Hybrid Legal Camp 2020 and Moot 101, an online guide to mooting during Alta Brunei 10th anniversary 2020, both organized in University Islam Sultan Sharif Ali, UNISA, Brunei Darussalam. All right, after we've been getting known about Dr. Farid's background, without further ado, let's begin with the first session, which is the lecture about Basic on Memorial. We would like to invite our distinguished speaker, Dr. Farid, to clarify in detail. Please welcome.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Before I begin, I would like to thank to our Madam Speaker, Ms. Sila, for your kind introduction. And I also would like to thank to Dr. Intan Nadia, her willingness and spending her holiday and weekend with us today for the opening session. So before I begin, so allow me to share my screen. And, can you see my shared screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Nampak tak kat tepi ni? On your right hand side.
Okay, Dr.
because I can see the your videos and your photos on your on my right hand side. So I'm afraid that the whole slide cannot be seen.
No worries, later we can see the slide. It is clear.
So you boleh tengok penuh bukan macam I ni, because
Yes.
dekat kanan ni dia
Entire
ada
slide.
oh entire slide. Alright. So I je lah yang nampak korang kat tepi ni. Right. Now, before I begin, so I would like to remind all of you that you have to bear with me because this is going to be a long day, because I will divide my presentation into two parts. In the morning session, I will discuss with you on the first part of Moot, i.e. Preparing for memorials. At 2 until 6, then I will discuss with you on the oral presentations or oral submissions. So the issue on oral advocacies and so on, so I will deal with those issues in the later session. Right, so before I begin on the memorial session or how to prepare good memorials and so on, so allow me to briefly introduce to you, right? For those who haven't participated or who didn't know, what is Moot or what is mooting. So let me give you or explain to you briefly what is Moot is all about. So before I begin, so allow me to introduce myself, some background of myself. So basically, I am your super duper senior. So I graduated from the very same university that you are studying at the moment. So I did my first degree at the Faculty of Sharia and Law. And also before I started my undergraduate studies, so I was the first among the first batch for Tamhidi of Sharia and Law back then in 2005, right? And then after Tamhidi, so I further my first undergraduate studies at the Faculty of Sharia and Law in 2006 until 2011. So I graduated for my first degree in 2011, and I went to, I worked for a number of organizations after that. After later on, I have been offered by the university for a scholarship to continue or further my studies for my master's and PhD. So then I went to IIU, Ahmad Ibrahim Kuliah of Law, I call, and I did my master's in IIU in 2013. And Alhamdulillah, I managed to secure my first class master's degree at that time. And then I went to the UK for my PhD, specializing in international criminal law and also public international law in general. So I received my PhD in 2018. So when I came back to the university, then I've been offered a position as a senior lecturer at the faculty. So that's, here I am. So currently I am a senior lecturer at the Faculty of Sharia and Law, and this is my area of specialization or my area of interest: international criminal law, international criminal justice, international humanitarian law or IHL, the law of treaties, constitutional law, and also public international law in general. So all this area of specialization is because of mooting, right? So because of I get myself into during my undergraduate studies. Now, before I explain to you about what is Moot or how to prepare a good memorial, so allow me to explain to you, what is basically you are doing at the moment, right? So while you are studying, regardless whether in which year that you are in, Tamhidi or first year, second year, third year, fourth year, right? Basically, you are planting a seed, or you are planting seeds of fruit trees, right? So I would like to talk about the tree and the fruits of mooting that I myself experience, right? Now, imagine that what you are doing at the moment is like you are planting a tree. First, you put a seed, you plant a seed on the soil, and then the seeds will start to grow, right, from a little tree, and it will grow. And at the end of the day, it will grow big and produce fruits, right? So now I would like to talk about planting the tree, right? The tree of myself when I was in my undergraduate studies. So during my undergraduate studies, I participated in a number of public speaking competitions, such as in debating and also in mooting. So for debating, I participated in all languages in Bahasa, in English debating championship, and also in Arabic debate championship. So as far as mooting is concerned, I only joined two types of moot competition during my time, which are Philip C. Jessup International Law Moot Court competitions, or in short, we call it Jessup Moot. In 2006 and 2009. So when I joined Jessup, I was in my first year. At that time, I only learned Malaysian legal system. I only know about Malaysian legal system, not even learn about contract law or torts or constitutional law. So imagine during my first year, and I have to learn international law in details. I have to open up treaties and so on. So I have to learn so many things, right? So beyond my capabilities at that time, because being a first year student, you cannot straight away jump into a more advanced area of law, especially on international law. But like it or not, when I joined Just Mood at that time, then I have to read, and I have to spend my free time reading books and open up treaties and so on. Right, so I joined Just Mood twice during my undergraduate studies. In 2006 and 2009. So when I was in 2009, I was in my third year to my fourth year at that time. And then I also joined IHL Moot, or International Humanitarian Law Moot Court competitions 3 times, right? 2007, 2008, and 2010. So when I was in my second year, my third year, and my fourth year towards my final year at that time. So these are some of the pictures that I could have captured during my undergraduate studies, because during my time, I only use Nokia handphone without any camera, because, back then in 2006, 7, 8, we don't have, a phone with camera. So we need to have a camera, and then we have to put a Kodak, if the film inside, and that whenever we capture the photo, that we have to scroll in order to move to the next photo. So, it's very hard at that time because we don't have that technology. So because I came from a very poor family, so I couldn't afford to buy a camera. So I was depending on my friend because she has this camera, and of course she will be she would have she will capture her photos more than mine. So these are some of the photos that could have resembled myself during my participation those days. So on your left hand side, this is during the IHL Moot in 2007. So this was during my second year, right? And then this was the last time I joined IHL back then in 2010. Right? These are with the judges and also other participants at that time. So during my first time I joined IHL, so I managed to semi-finals. So this was the photos during the semi-finals, whereby there were 5 judges at a time. So if you could see in the middle, this is Justice Gopal Sri Ram. So if you read laws and you have like it or not, you have to read His Lordship's Gopal Sri Ram's judgment, right? And he was very fierce at that time. So and we have also Tan Sri Shafi'i Abdullah, Datuk Sri Najib's lawyer. So he was one of the judges as well. And on the left-hand side is Datuk Haji Sulaiman, right, a prominent lawyer. And then this is a Court of Appeal judge and ambassador, the Danish ambassador. So 5 judges, bombarding the Moots with questions at that time. So it was so scary, but very meaningful to me. You could see that these are the judges, Tan Sri Shafi over here, Justice Gopal Sri Ram, Haji Sulaiman, right? If you could look at me at the back here, because everybody is so tall, so I rendah sikit. So dah lah rendah duduk belakang. So of course I have to, jinjit sikit so that, my picture could have been captured. Now, those are the fruits, those are the trees. So whenever I participated in any programs, especially in Moot, I'm planting the tree. Now, after having the tree, now comes the fruits, right? So what are the fruits, right? Now, I have been given the honor to coach for a number of competitions, such as in Low Asia, Moot competitions in 2017. At that time, I just came back from the UK. Right? At that time, I'm still finishing my PhD at that time, right? And also in Namco Moot competition in 2018, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. Right? Also in IHL and also in USIM Moot, right? Last year. And also, not only I have been coaching a number of competitions and a number of teams, I am also teaching Moot, right? This semester, I am handling LAD 423 Moot for 4th year students. And I believe that those who are in your 2nd year, you are taking Moot as well, but not with me, but with Dr. Norman, right? So for those who are in your 3rd year, inshallah, by next year, when you enter into your 4th year, then perhaps you'll be taking the same subject Moot, and perhaps that I will be handling you guys whenever you are in your 4th year. Bear with me at the time. Okay? So these are the moments that have been captured during the subjects, right? After the oral submissions have finished. We use it in the Moot court, and then I ask all my students to wear full attire during the oral submissions, right? Because at that time we had this was during 2019, early 2019. At that time, we had a criminal appeal at that time, so before the Court of Appeal. And this year, the Moot problem that you have received is for this semester, right? The current semester that I am handling on the issue of constitutional law, and also on the issue of the constitutionality of Sedition Act, right, before the federal court. As the speaker has introduced just now, that I also have been give a number of workshops and speech on Moot, especially in Brunei Darussalam, because we have a good relation with Brunei Darussalam. At that time, I think that back then in 2011, I went to Brunei for a conference, and then they invited me, to have a workshop with the students, whereby they're having a legal hybrid camp with Indonesian students and also with Singaporean students, right, at that time. So, I gave, a workshop from 9 a.m. until 6 p.m., right, the same that you will be having today, right? So this was on the left hand side was the during the legal hybrid, and on the right hand side was the during ALSA 10th anniversary. So it was a virtual conference, virtual workshop at that time, because of COVID-19. So I couldn't be able to travel to Brunei, Darussalam to attend the workshop. So I gave the workshop, or I delivered the workshop virtually at that time. So still, we did the fruits of participating in Moot competition, that I've been invited to judge a number of competitions, right? Starting from our internal Moot competition, the IMCC, the intramural Moot court competition, right? It's a yearly program organized by the Law SOC, and also especially by the Law SOC, and also by the Mooting Club of FSU. And also, I also been invited to judge at a national Moot competition, whereby you can see on your right hand side where I was being a presiding judge for national round or national qualifying round for Philip C. Jessup International Law Moot Court competitions in 2019. Right. There was the certificate granted after I've been judging the competition. I have judged NAMCO Moot, right, especially for memorials. I'm very strict with marking on memorials. So every single dot and every single spaces, I will check, right? So poor participants at that time. But I believe that whatever I have commented on the memorials and so on, could give the participants how to improve themselves in the future. So not only to judge national rounds, so I've also been invited to judge international rounds. So especially I will be judging for World Championship, right, for the Philip C. Jessup International Law Moot Court competition for the World Championship, during on early February, right? So I have received the memorials of the bundles. So I have to take some time to read those memorials and give comments and judge memorials for the World Championship. So next will be the Asia Pacific Regional Rounds, which also will be held this coming February. So February will be my hectic month, right? Because I have 3 to 4 competitions to judge, right, internationally. Right, for the US Championship as well, so I'm invited to judge 3 US regional rounds. Right, so hopefully that I could judge Harvard and Yale University, because I really wanted to see them, how they really move, right? How do they really submit in front of a judge. I'm also in the process of learning as well, so I will always learn from all the mooters, right? Regardless whether they are still in their undergraduate studies. So the learning process will not end, right, until I die, right? So I'm still in the learning process. And lastly will be the Thailand qualifying round, right, for the championship. So the fruit, hasn't stopped there, right? I was also being summoned by the rulers, by the Yang di-Pertuan Agong, and also by the Conference of Rulers to give my advice to His Majesty, the rulers, and also His Majesty, the Yang di-Pertuan Agong, on certain matter, especially on international law issue, right? So these are some of the pictures that been captured when I went to the palace after being summoned by the Yang Dipertuan Agong, His Majesty, and also with other rulers and the Yang Dipertuan Agong and the Crown Prince of Johor, and you could see that me, I'm walking behind His Majesty the King and also the Crown Prince. This was captured during the Conference of Rulers. So I believe that those who are doing your second year or in your second year, that you are learning or on Conference of Rulers, or perhaps that you have read something on Conference of Rulers. Right, so now we are during an emergency situation whereby the declaration of emergency has been made by the Yang Dipertuan Agong after consulting the Conference of Rulers. So, during my undergraduate studies, I only learned and studied on that part. But Alhamdulillah, I've been given a golden opportunity by Allah Subhanahu wa Taala to really attend that session and give my advice, and also have a Q&A session with all His Majesty's the rulers, right? In 2011. So at that time there was an issue arose, right? Especially on whether Malaysia should accede to Rome Statute, right? To the Rome Statute. So I believe that some of you have heard on this issue. So I'll show you some of the photos, right? So these are the rulers, right, who have attended the Conference of Rulers at that time, and with the queens, right, with all the queens at the National Palace. So these are all my colleagues, right? My group, right? Of this is a group of advisors to the Yang Dipertuan Agong and Conference of Rulers at that time, and I believe that all of you noticed the lady, the beautiful lady, right? The only lady in my group, that is Professor Dr. Shamrahayu. She is an expert in constitutional law. So she was one of the advisors. And if you note, I would like to introduce my colleague as well. This young guy is my classmate during my undergraduate studies, right? Classmate I must study dulu lah, right? So dia pun adalah salah seorang advisor, right? So the advisors to the Conference of Rulers ada 4. So 2 adalah alumni FSU, alumni USIM. I dengan kawan I tak ada professor pun, right? So these 2 adalah professor, right? So bayangkan, kami, at least I adalah PhD juga, but my friend, he had a master's in international law only, right? But we have been given the honor, right, by the Yang Dipertuan Agong and the Conference of Rulers to give our advice and opinions on international law issue. I also have been summoned by to explain or to teach Shinen, right, on other issues, right, as compared to the issue of Rome Statute, right. So I don't want to go into the detail of that particular area, right. And also I have been summoned by the Sultan, by one of the rulers in Malaysia, that is the Sultan of Terengganu. So if you could see the picture on your left hand side, this small book, I noticed that korang semua mesti tahu ni. That is the Federal Constitution. So, so I gave some advice, and also I explained to His Majesty the Sultan on certain matter at that time that His Majesty the ruler or the Sultan would like to know more on that area. So I have been summoned by the Sultan to give my opinion as well. So these are all the fruits, right? So ini yang gambar yang cakap tadi yang masa issue Rome Statute just now. So the 4 orang tu. So teruklah juga kalau kita orang 4 orang ni kena kecam masa tu. But kecaman is a good advertisement, right? So memperkenalkan I kepada orang ramai juga. Ini betul keratan akhbar yang ada lah dengan Tun M masa tu. Tun M was the then Prime Minister. So my name is just next to Tun M, right? And also with my picture. Right. So during the issue of Rome Statute, masa tu we had, our opinion has been going against, with Tan Sri Tommy Thomas, right? So Alhamdulillah, so we have been, given the winning, right? At that time by Allah the Almighty, right? For our efforts, right? So those are the fruits that I would like to share with you. It's not that I'm trying to, boast about myself, but I'm trying to show to you that if it is not because of Moot, right? When if it is not because of those programs that I have joined during my undergraduate studies, especially Moot, I wouldn't be able to, deliver my opinion, right, before the rulers, right? And my area of expertise would not have been known to the Yang di-Pertuan Agong and also by a number of members of the society on certain areas if it is not because of those programs, especially in Moot, right? So if I can do that, right? If I can do it, so do you, right? So kalau I pun boleh buat, dulu zaman I tak ada yang macam apa yang korang ada sekarang ni. Zaman I dulu tak ada coach, tak ada proper trainings and so on, right? But now you have all this, right? So kalau zaman I yang tak ada macam-macam kemudahan pun boleh berjaya, so apatah lagi korang yang ada macam-macam sekarang ni. So, but it is up to you whether you nak ambil or grab that opportunity or not, right? So kalau you rasa you nak relax sama-sama belajar ni, right? So nanti bila you dah habis belajar tu, you akan menyesal, right? Because you tak grab the opportunities yang ada depan mata tu, right? So because dulu macam you guys tengok tu tadi, I masuk debate, I masuk Moot, right? So sometimes during my undergraduate studies dulu, my friends selalu cakap, asyik muka kau je, right? Asyik muka kau je. Debate pun kau, right? Mooting pun kau, right? Dulu I pun MPP juga, right? So semualah I masa tu. Setiap kali cuti semester, I tak pernah balik pun. Right? Kalau I balik pun, I balik 2-3 hari. Maksimum pun 5 hari macam tu je. Most of my time, I spend dekat university. I masuk debate, I masuk mooting, right? Then I have to do all this research, right? Masa itu tak terfikir beyond my imagination that I akan dipanggil oleh Conference of Rulers ke, I dilantik untuk jadi judge untuk international competitions, alright? Tak kisahlah championship ke apa ke, right? Tak pernah terbayang dalam mimpi, dalam fikiran I masa tu pun, right? Apa yang I fikir masa tu ialah I nak improve myself, right? I nak maximize my time masa dekat university tu untuk join all the programs, right? So masa tu tak terfikir pun apa yang I buat masa tu akan membuahkan hasil. I never imagine that. So I fikir macam as long as I boleh improve myself, that's all, right? But you will see at least the least the least fruits yang you akan rasa ialah bila you buat presentation dalam kelas and so on, you punya kepitahan bercakap tu berbeza dengan those yang tak pernah masuk, right? You punya critical thinking pun akan berbeza, right? Cara you sampaikan points to, right? The way you write, right? Especially the way you write in your exams will be different as compared to those yang tak pernah masuk. Why? Because you dah di-train untuk bercakap, you dah di-train untuk sampaikan apa yang perlu saja, and you dah di-train untuk macam mana explain legal matters or legal issues tu in depth, right? In detail, right? Lepas satu-satu, and then you nak kaitkan macam mana. So all this come through the process, right? Ada proses-proses tertentu, Now, we'll go to the first part of today's session. So, I nak explain dekat you guys lah, for those yang daripada Tamhidi, especially yang tak pernah tahu pun apa itu mood. Right? So, jangan kata Tamhidi, first year, second year pun tak pernah dengar apa benda mood ni. Right? So, allow me to briefly explain to you what is mood or what is mooting. Right? So, basically, mood is an argument on points of law. Right? So, aims to simulate an appeal court. So, mood ni dalam kata mudah, right? So, I akan pakai dua bahasa so that you could grasp the explanation and the knowledge, right? So, mood ni in short, dia adalah argument berdasarkan or based on point of law. Kalau you tengok dalam TV ataupun dalam YouTube yang ada perbicaraan, so perhaps that some of you went to the court, right? You tengok perbicaraan. So normally kita pergi tu kita tengok perbicaraan, panggil witness, alright, tender evidence, alright, bawa evidence, alright, panggil saksi dan sebagainya. That is not moot, right? Moot ialah di peringkat rayuan, right? So selepas trial, mahkamah dah jatuhkan hukuman. Because we all know that in Malaysia, especially I'm talking about Malaysian perspective. Dalam Malaysia, kita ada hierarchy of courts, starting from the magistrates court, sessions court, high court, court of appeal, and federal court. So let's say that the high court has decided that the accused person is guilty for murder, for example, and he must be sent to gallows, right? So before the sentence to be enforced, then the accused person or the accused person tu dia nak merayu, right? Bawa pergi court of appeal. So dekat court of appeal itulah dia akan argue on points of law, right? So ini adalah moot, alright? So in this sense, so I nak bagi you lebih faham. So bila dekat mahkamah rayuan, dia dah tak panggil saksi dah. Saksi tak akan dipanggil, evidence tak akan ditender. Apa yang akan diargue di mahkamah rayuan ialah berdasarkan point undang-undang. Section ni cakap apa, undang-undang ni cakap apa, decision of a previous decision from the highest court of this country especially cakap apa, right? So in order to whether to uphold the decision of the previous court or to acquit the accused person, right? Or the appellant in that situation, right? So itu adalah moot dekat mahkamah rayuan dekat dalam Malaysia, right? So selagi mana dia tidak melibatkan saksi dan sebagainya, itu adalah moot, right? So normally moot is a hearing before a judge or arbitrator or panel of judges or arbitrators. So bila you masuk moot nanti, so nanti I akan tunjuk dekat you types of moots. So we have simulated court and also we have arbitration. Simulated court is macam mahkamah biasa yang ada. Setting dia tu mahkamah yang selalu kita tengok. I.e. judge akan duduk dekat bench dekat atas tu. So bila mahkamah rayuan, dia ada 3 bench, right? Bila mahkamah persekutuan dia ada 3, 5, 7, 9, 11. So odd numbers of judges, right? So kalau arbitration, dia tak perlu berdiri, right? So nanti saya akan tunjukkan you. So kalau simulated court yang biasa, peguam ataupun counsel akan bangun berdiri dan berhujah di hadapan hakim, right? But for arbitration, dia adalah setting yang sangat santai dan sangat informal, whereby both the arbitrators, right, hakim masa itulah orang yang akan menghakimi, we call them as arbitrators, and counsels, the lawyers yang akan represent the clients tu akan duduk all the time, right? But still decorum and demeanor will be observed. So what does it mean by decorum and demeanor? Nanti I akan explain dekat you tentang nanti during oral submission session, right? So the participants, so those yang participate dalam moot ni akan dipanggil mooter, right? So kalau ramai mooters lah, right? So the mooters will argue on legal merits, right? Dia akan argue on apa undang-undang bagi tahu. Section ni cakap apa, alright? Section 2 cakap apa. Case itu cakap apa, case ni cakap apa. So in order to whether to acquit or to release the accused yang dah dijatuhkan hukuman tu, ataupun nak court upheld the decision, right? Itu untuk peringkat dalaman, untuk dalam Malaysia. So I tak nak sentuh banyak pasal international moot, takut those yang daripada tamhidi or first year dia tak boleh nak imagine apa benda tu ICJ, ICC. So nanti I akan sentuh sikit nanti. But most of my explanation hari ni I akan sentuh dalam perspektif Malaysia. So all of you, so that all of you could boleh grasp the knowledge or explanation, right? So so lastly, not concerned with arguments over the facts of the case that has been settled. Alright, so dia tak akan sentuh lagi. Alright, pukul berapa, alright, evidence itu ini. Alright, so mood macam I bagi tahu tadi, dia hanyalah untuk legal point of view. Lembagaan cakap apa, section ni cakap apa daripada akta itu ini dan juga cases. Right, itu sahaja. Right. Now, some of you might also have heard about mock trial, right? So mock trial tu tadi, mock trial dia lebih kurang sama dengan trial yang dekat court tu yang panggil saksi, right? Yang tender evidence. So mock trial pun FSU pun ada anjurkan, alright? It's a yearly program as well. Kita panggil mock trial juga. So kita buat macam pementasan teater, right? So nanti you guys bolehlah join jadi pelakon ke, alright? Jadi belakang tabir ke whatsoever, right? So moot, the difference between moot and mock trial is that moot is on appellate court, right? Appellate court here refers not only referring to the court of appeal, but the court with appellate jurisdiction. So I believe that you guys from Tamhidi first year, second year pun dah belajar jurisdiction of the court. So whichever court yang ada appellate jurisdiction, masa tu lah kita akan moot, right? Depending on cases, depending on the case. So as compared to mock trial, it will be presented before the first instance court, right? Masa trial, right? So form 1 is on facts and points of law, right? You tak kisah pasal benda lain, just point of law saja, right? Law cakap apa, that's all, right? But for mock trial, it's about facts, it's about evidence, right? It's about testimony of witnesses, right? And also some parts of point of law, right? So burden of proof lies on the shoulder of the public prosecutor to prove the case beyond reasonable doubt, for example, in criminal case, and for the parties in civil matters that beyond probabilities, right? So depending on the case that you are mooting, they will be mooted, right? So moot, again, the appearance style is different. So kalau in Malaysia, you will be wearing bib and robe, right? So macamnya you tengok dalam gambar tadi dalam kelas tu, right? So the counsel will be wearing bib and robe, right? So kalau mock trial tu depends lah. Kalau pergi dekat sessions court, just pakai coat dengan tie je. So kalau dekat high court, still kena pakai bib dengan robe, right? So the style of advocacy is different, right? So apa beza dia? The way we address to the bench, right? So the way we address to the judges, right? So nanti I akan tunjuk dekat you how do we address the benches, right? How do we address the judges in a different moot court setting, right? So dalam oral submissions nanti petang nanti, right? So does not featuring any witnesses, right? So I already touched on this, so I don't want to explain on that anymore. Now, does not featuring expert opinion. For mooting sama lah, right? Kita tak akan panggil lagi expert opinion. Nak panggil apa tu pakar pathology contoh, right? Nak panggil pakar kimia, right? No more, right? But we will use what the court has already decided on that matter. For example, adakah pakar kimia ni boleh dipanggil? Adakah pakar kimia ni is a good testimony, right? Court cakap apa? Court held apa dalam case apa-apa. Itu dalam moot. Like during moot and testify before the court and will be cross-examined by the counsel. So itu adalah perbezaan between mooting and also mock trial. Mooting and debating also are also different, right? Though both involve public speaking, right? But mooting and debating are still different in the sense that mooting deals with specific legal issues. Let's say you are dealing with criminal matter, for example, in rape case or murder case, right? Ataupun case apa, langgar lari ke apa ke, right? Only on that specific issue, right? But debate dia ada banyak-banyak round. So round ni pasal economy, next round pasal environment, third round pasal undang-undang, right? Fourth round pasal alam sekitar dan sebagainya. So it deals with a number of subject matters as compared to mooting where specific issue will be dealt during that session, right? So kalau issue whether the respondent, the applicant tu bersalah atau tidak, alright, whether applicant tu or perayu tu bunuh orang tu atau tidak, right? So that is the point of law or the issue or the legal issue is very specific, right? And the persuasive advocacy has been used, right? Cara you bercakap, right? Tangan you, lengguk bahasa, body language, all this you kena jaga during moot, right? Kalau dalam debate, right, you ada persuasive arguments whereby you normally, right? So for those you yang dah pernah masuk debate, right, dalam debate peli-peli, right, angkat tangan tinggi, right, tunjuk tangan macam tu, right, dibenarkan. But in moot dia tak boleh. Tangan you will be, akan diikat, right? I mean, akan diikat in the sense that you tak boleh nak angkat tangan tinggi, right? Cara bercakap, alright, your body language and so on. So I akan tunjuk dekat you some of the videos later on. Now, why moot, right? Kenapa law students kena masuk moot, right? You sometimes, bukan sometimes lah, I mean ramai yang tak masuk moot basically during undergraduate studies. So that is why subject moot diperkenalkan, so that ataupun join or involve dalam moot, right? So that is how we have compulsory moot, right? So for second and fourth year, right? So the reason why ada dua batch ni lah, dulu diperkenalkan dekat fourth year. So I dah minta dekan untuk move kepada first year, tapi first year ada banyak subjek, so dipindahkan ke second year, right? So nanti second year akan start ambil, right, all the time. So those yang dah second year sekarang ni dah tengah ambil, so those yang third year dah tak ambil lagi, belum ambil lagi, so next year masa dia orang fourth year dia orang akan ambil, right? So why moot, right? So there are many reasons why you will get or you must involve in moot, right? So mooting enables students to engage and think deeply about interesting and topical legal issues. Because sometimes you akan borak kosong, you tak go depth, you're not going to discuss in details on certain matters, right? But for moot, sekecil-kecil benda pun you akan cari authority. Contoh, bila you bercakap dalam moot, right? If you're talking about moot, right, let's say you submit dekat court, you kata, my lord, the situation involved in the current proceeding does not meet the reasonableness test, right? So court boleh persoal you, how do we measure whether this situation is reasonable or not? So it could be reasonable to you, it could not be reasonable to me. So how do we measure whether it is reasonable for both of us? Right? So I give you another analogy. Contoh, pasal nak cakap sepinggan nasi. Macam mana kita nak tahu sepinggan nasi ni boleh mengenyangkan semua orang? Right? Sometimes orang makan 2 pinggan, 3 pinggan baru dia kenyang. Makan sepinggan dia tak kenyang. Sometimes orang makan suku pinggan pun dah kenyang. Right? So how do we measure the test of kecukupan, right? The enoughness of certain thing, right? So until that level, right? Then you kena datangkan dengan hujah you daripada case tu, daripada undang-undang ni, alright? Court dalam case tu cakap macam tu, and then you argue, right? So that is to that extent you moot, right? You argue your case, right? Bukannya you hanya sekadar bercakap, tapi you datangkan dengan hujah-hujah undang-undang you, right? Dalam peruntukan undang-undang ini, dalam peruntukan perlembagaan ini, dalam peruntukan section ini, dalam akta ini,
dan juga dalam decision of the court in any of the cases, right? To learn new law. Now, normally bila you masuk Moot, you are the Moot problems. I pakai satu term iaitu Moot problem. So nanti kita akan tengok apa itu Moot problem. Right? You akan diberikan satu case. Case itu, fakta case tu normally merangkumi isu perundangan or legal issues yang you tak pernah belajar pun masa you undergraduate studies. Masa you belajar dekat degree tu you tak pernah belajar pun. Contoh isu cyber law, right? Contoh isu alam sekitar ataupun contoh isu immigration, right? Ataupun contoh isu pelacuran, right? Ataupun isu what else? Kalau international law tu macam-macam lah, right? Isu drone ke, right? Isu kapal selam ke, isu nuklear ke, right? Benda yang you tak pernah belajar pun, right? So like it or not, bila you masuk Moot, you kena involve diri you kena start baca areas of law yang you tak pernah belajar, right? So from there you will learn the new law. You akan buka treaties, international treaties, perjanjian antarabangsa berkenaan dengan nuklear, for example, right? Artikel 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pada cakap, right? Siapa negara yang sign perjanjian tu? All these things yang you kena belajar, right? So you are learning a new law, right? Apa yang you dah belajar dekat law schools tu tak sama dengan apa yang you belajar masa you masuk Moot, right? Because kalau subject area yang sama sekalipun, Moot lah lebih detail daripada apa yang you belajar dalam kelas. Thirdly is about analytical skills, right? So sometimes bila you jawab soalan exam, you rasa you dah jawab dengan bagus dah. You dah bagi macam-macam case dah, tapi still dapat full marks, right? Why? Because you tak analyze legal issues ataupun cases yang you bagi tu ataupun provisions of the law tu in details, right? So bila you involve dalam Moot, sekecil-kecil perkataan you akan argue. For example, satu perkataan je, right? Let's say in the law it says the word they mention the word may, right? So you argue perkataan may itu sebagai, for example, it is an option. If it is an option, it cannot carry the weight as compulsion, right? Or compulsory. It cannot be compulsory. So bila dah jadi option, so buat pun tak apa, tak buat pun tak apa, alright? So dalam kes ni, kalau you nak argue dia sepatutnya buat, so the word may tu membolehkan dia, right? Kalau dia tak nak buat pun, perkataan may tu pun membolehkan dia. So dengan satu perkataan tu pun you dah boleh analyze, you boleh argue, right? So when you read law, right? So that is why bila orang tanya, you buat course apa? Let's say bila you dah buat law, you will answer to them that I read law. Right? The reason why you say that or you say so is because you are actually reading the law, right? But how do you really read the law, right? So sometimes kita baca provisions of the law. For example, constitutional provision. You baca dengan sebatas lalu je, you baca laju je, right? So membaca undang-undang bukan macam you baca novel ataupun you baca caption IG ataupun Twitter ataupun Facebook you, right? Yang you baca laju macam no. To read a specific legal provision, you kena baca dengan hati-hati. Setiap perkataan yang ditulis dalam peruntukan undang-undang tu, right? Every single word that has been mentioned in that provision tu carries meaning, right? So that is why kes-kes dibawa ke mahkamah for the court to interpret what does it mean by that word, right? What does it mean by that word, right? So court tak interpret the whole provision. Sometimes the court yes interpret the whole provisions, but if you read cases, the court normally dia akan decide on that particular word in that particular section, right? So there are a number of cases yang mana court interpret the word may must be interpreted as if it is as if the word shall has been included, right? So hujah-hujah macam-macam datang, right? So hanya dengan satu perkataan sahaja dah jadi satu kes yang besar, right? So this is analytical skills yang you akan belajar dalam Moot, right? Yang you tak akan belajar in details kalau belajar sekalipun masa you during your undergraduate studies. Fourth, to enhance your advocacy, legal research and writing skills, right? So legal advocacy, as I said earlier, that dalam moot, alright, cara you bercakap dalam mahkamah, cara you berhujah dalam mahkamah, your body language, your facial expression, cara you sebut perkataan tu pun, alright, so dia ada cara di dalam mahkamah, right? So dia tak macam cara yang you tengok dalam TV yang, alright, peguam tu cakap macam tu, alright? So TV tu biasalah, right? They're fictional, right? But for moot, then dia ada style dia yang tersendiri. Now, legal research, right? So kalau you masuk moot, alright, especially kalau I yang coach untuk that competition, I will guide you and I will teach you how to conduct a legal research. Macam mana nak cari cases untuk you jawab persoalan undang-undang tu. How do you find cases or legal provisions in order to address that particular legal issue, right? So mana nak cari, kat mana nak cari, and whether those references tu boleh digunakan pakai ataupun tidak, right? So kalau you tak pernah masuk moot, alright, you akan buat semua benda, you akan masukkan semua benda, especially in your assignment, right? So you akan nampak perbezaan those yang pernah masuk moot dengan tak pernah masuk moot. Why? Those yang pernah masuk moot, dia akan tulis setiap perkataan dalam assignments tu dengan perkataan dia sendiri, from their own or from the students' own words, right? Sometimes, bila kita buat assignment, right, those yang tak pernah masuk moot, dia akan copy paste sana sikit, koma, hantar. And then reference kat bawah tu pun ada 2-3 je, ada sikit-sikit je, right? Itu pun kalau ada tu pun, references tu pun, citations tu tak penuh, right? But bila you masuk moot, every single details you akan berikan penekanan. Even double spaces pun you akan mata you tu akan cepat je nampak, right? Why? You dah di-train untuk jadi sangat detail, right? You akan jadi seorang yang very neat, right? So double space you akan check, comma, full stop you akan check, alright? Italic tak italic, alright? Font number, right? Pakai Times New Roman ke tidak, alright? Or you pakai Calibri ke, right? Semua tu you akan nampak, you akan beri penekanan. And you akan draft lagi assignment tu normally, so that at the end of the day you will produce a very good document, especially your assignment, right? So I bet you akan nampak perbezaan kalau you nampak you masuk moot nanti, and kalau you tak masuk moot sekalipun, you akan tahu siapa yang pernah masuk moot among your friends. Cuba check dia punya penulisan, cuba check dia punya writing, right? It will be different. Or you tengok presentation dia tu, right? Cara dia sebut, cara dia explain, cara dia divide presentation dia macam mana, right? Cara dia jawab soalan tu, right? Bila lecturer tanya soalan, macam mana dia address soalan tu, macam mana dia jawab soalan tu, right? And bila dia kena provoke with the questions, macam mana dia handle dia punya nervous, macam mana dia handle dia punya stress and everything, right? So all this will be taught, right? Will be developed through mooting, right? To work closely with and learn from their peers, right? So bila you masuk moot, especially, you akan ada kawan-kawan yang sama dengan you, right? So you akan ada rakan muta you tu, dan juga you akan ada a number of researchers. So semua ni akan jadi you punya family. You akan rapat dengan semua orang, right? Because you akan berduduk berkampung dekat, especially kalau dekat FSU tu, we have this mooting chamber whereby kita akan buat research kat situ, kita akan training dekat situ and so on. Sampailah malam, right? Daripada pagi sampai malam, right? So macam-macam, right? Daripada you tak kenal orang tu, sampai dah orang tu akan jadi best friend you, right? Because you ada satu persamaan, iaitu you dengan kawan you tu nak improve yourselves, and also, alright, to produce a very good documents, also oral presentations at the end of the day, right? And of course to enhance your CV, right? So bila you dah masuk moot, nanti you akan dapatlah certificate tu, right? Tak kisahlah you menang ke you kalah pun, as long as you ada sijil moot tu, that is good enough. Why? People will not question you menang ke you tidak, right? The minute je dia tengok you ada certificate yang you pernah masuk moot tu, dia dah tahu dah you must be among the best student untuk represent your faculty or untuk represent your university to the championship, right? Right? Orang takkan hantar yang paling tercorot sekali, yang paling teruk sekali untuk championship. Takkan ada. Right? It doesn't work that way. Right? So pergilah mana-mana championship ke, Olimpik ke, alright, ASEAN sukan ke, sukan sukma, bola sepak sekalipun. Kalau bola sepak, takkan awak nak hantar yang kaki bangku jadi striker. It doesn't make sense. Right? So kalau kalah sekalipun, those yang berlawan dalam tu semua tu yang antara yang terhebat, right? Sama lah dalam ni, right? As long as you have that, then it is good enough. It shows that you have the capability in order for you to represent your faculty or the university, right? To boost your confidence, right? I dulu sama, I tak boleh nak cakap-cakap panjang-panjang lama-lama, right? Bagilah 2 minit sekalipun I tak boleh bercakap, right? So I tak confident, right? Patut cakap pun gagap-gagap, right? But because of, dah di-train masuk mood, masuk debate and so on, so I jadi confident, right? Bagilah mic dekat I, sampai orang nak kena tarik mic tu daripada I so that, I boleh dihentikan, right? I can be stopped. Or else I akan jadi bullet train. Bercakap je tak berhenti, right? Excellent public speaking experience. And of course, bila you masuk mood, then you akan ada confident level tu. Pergilah mana-mana pun, nak bercakap dalam dewan yang ada beribu orang sekalipun, you akan jadi public speaker yang bagus. Right? Orang provoke soalan macam mana sekalipun, you boleh jawab. Right? So I would like to share with you the Raja-Raja Melayu ni, dia bukan je dengar you dengar kami berempat bagi pendapat. Ada Q&A. Raja-raja akan tanya soalan. Right? What do you mean by this? How do we do this? How do we do that? Right? How do we interpret this? How do we interpret that? Right? Then, you nak kena menjawab soalan tu. Right? So, kalau you tak confident, macam mana you nak convince Raja-Raja Melayu or siapa-siapa yang mendengar you ni untuk agree dengan you, untuk setuju dengan you. Right? So, it requires you yourself, right, untuk confident. Barulah you boleh confident dengan orang lain. Right? So, macam mana nak menjawab? Right? Pun ada caranya. Right? And macam mana nak elaborate jawapan tu untuk memahamkan orang lain. Itu pun satu persoalan juga. Right? Itu pun satu masalah. Right? Sometimes you know the answer. Sometimes you are a good writer. You boleh tulis dengan baik. Right? Tulisan you cantik. Right? Right? You tulis explanation tak sama dengan apa yang you tulis. Right? So dalam mood kita nak balance, right? In writing and also in oral explanation, right? So bila you dah bagus dalam dua-dua area ni, then you will be a good writing skills and also in both oral skills, right? To demonstrate prospective employers, right? So nanti the next journey, i.e. your future undertaking and endeavors. So bila you nak apply kerja, of course akan ada interview session. Interview dia tak akan tanya you breakfast apa hari ni, right? You daripada mana? Of course dia akan tanya soalan basic-basic tu. But dia orang akan tanya you soalan provocative question, right? Apa yang you boleh bagi dekat kita, right? Apa yang you boleh contribute dekat company kita contohnya, right? How do you see yourself in 10 years time? Things like that. So macam mana you nak confidentkan dia orang, right? Dan macam mana you nak convince your future employer ni untuk hire you, right? But what makes you special as compared to the other students, as compared to the other applicants? Why? Because you have to remember those yang great sekali dengan you ni bukan you seorang je. And bukan kawan-kawan you dekat FSU USIM sahaja. Ada berpuluh ribu lagi yang grad sama dengan you. Jangan kata yang kat Malaysia yang baru balik dengan orang ni. You ada degree right? So of course all these additional points yang you ada, i.e. CJ yang you masuk competition situ, competition sini, right? And then the way you convince, the way you speak to them, the way you portray yourself dekat employer itu, dekat future potential employer itu, right? So kalau you ada all these additional points, I mean additional things yang lebih, right? More than as compared to those yang lain tu. Of course lah, sebagai seorang yang logik, dia akan bagi peluang tu dekat you, right? Dia tak akan bagi dekat orang yang teruk, right? Sama juga apa-apa pun, right? Kalau you nak bagi something, you akan tengok yang the best, right? You tak akan bagi dekat orang yang paling teruk, right? Doesn't work that way, right? But again, all in all, it can be nerve-wracking. So, I tak boleh nak sorok daripada you, I tak boleh nak tipu you, alright? I tak boleh nak, hide the truth, right? But it is nerve-wracking kalau you masuk Mohd. Why? Because the minute you start you punya submission, the minute you start you punya explanation tu, you will be bombarded with questions, right? Kalau let's say dekat depan you tu ada 3 atau 5 judge tu, kalau 5 judge tu jenis yang ganas, right? Dia akan bomb you dengan soalan macam-macam, right? You tak sempat jawab lagi, dia bomb lagi. You tak sempat lagi, dia bantai lagi, right? So macam mana you handle you, right? Masa tu sometimes, right? Even speaking from experience pun, dulu bila I kena tanya macam-macam, I tengok pintu keluar tu besar amat, right? I rasa nak lari je daripada tu, right? But it was a good experience. So kalau I lari, rugilah I, because that is the only chance untuk I hadap benda-benda macam tu. Orang lain tak pernah rasa apa yang I rasa masa tu. So it is an honor for me, it is an experience for me yang tak boleh dijual beli dekat luar, right? So it is a nerve-wracking, right? Memang nerve-wracking, right? But after you dah habis tu, nanti you akan rasa the fruits, right? And frustrating sometimes. Frustrating in the sense that you dah buat yang terbaik, sometimes kemenangan tak memihak kepada you. But it is adat lah, right? Adat pertandingan. Ada menang, ada kalah, right? But dia hidup ni dia macam roda. Tak semestinya you selalu di bawah, and tak semestinya those yang selalu di atas dulu di atas je, right? Dia akan flip-flop, right? So those yang duduk atas itulah yang akan susah sebenarnya, because dia nak kena make sure yang dia punya kemenangan tu and prestige dia tu kekal. So macam mana nak kekalkan tu, dia yang susah, right? Kita tak apalah, sometimes kalau you rasa macam okay, you tak pernah menang, right? So you akan always push yourself, improve yourself, right? Tiba-tiba masa tu, right, orang yang selalu menang tu sakit perut ke, tak cukup tidur ke, right? Tiba-tiba hari tu dia tak boleh perform, right? Dia boleh menang masa tu. Who knows, right? Things could happen, right? But it is a lot of fun, right? Fun in the sense that you boleh berjumpa orang lain, you make new friends, right? And then you lagi rapat dengan your old colleagues and so on, right? Now we go to the types of Moods, right? So normally we have a number of types of Moods, right? Regardless whether it is national or international Moot, right? So these Moods, national or international, they normally deals with the issue of civil appeal. Rayuan berkenaan dengan isu civil, right? Pasal breach of contract ke, right? Nak claim damages ke, right? Civil appeal. Trespass ke, whatsoever, right? So criminal appeal, right? Pasal kes bunuh ke, nak merayu, right? Pasal rogol ke, nak merayu, right? Pasal langgar lari and so on, right? Criminal appeal. Constitutional law issue, right? Pasal freedom of speech ke, freedom of association ke, right? Hak untuk murtad dan sebagainya. So these are constitutional law issue. Preliminary issues. So normally preliminary issue ni ialah you nak contest whether that particular court or the court yang you submit tu ada bidang kuasa untuk dengar perbicaraan tu atau tidak, right? So you nak tendang, you nak cakap court ni tak ada bidang kuasa, court ni tak boleh dengar kes ni, right? So these are normally preliminary issues yang ditimbulkan dalam Moot tu juga, right? So macam mana you nak justify yang mahkamah ni ada bidang kuasa, right? So you rujuklah, ada tak kedua-dua parti tu setuju nak bawa kes tu pergi mahkamah tu ke? Ada tak peruntukan dalam statute mana-mana yang memperuntukkan dalam situasi macam ni, Kalau tak ada perjanjian sekalipun, mahkamah ada bidang kuasa, right? Kalau tak ada peruntukan law sekalipun, ada tak keputusan mahkamah yang dulu-dulu yang court dah cakap dalam situasi macam ni, kalau tak ada peruntukan, tak ada perjanjian among the parties, then the court still has jurisdiction, right? Boleh tak keputusan tu dipakai, right? So ada tak keputusan yang lepas tu court dah overrule yang keputusan yang terdahulu. So all these are preliminary issues, right? Yang you akan move. And lastly, jurisdictional issues, right? Jurisdictional issues ni dia lebih kurang isu preliminary issue. But jurisdictional issue ni lebih dalam ataupun lebih detail lagi in the sense that whether agreements have been made among the parties. What if one party je yang setuju, the other party tak setuju, right? Then boleh tak court invoke jurisdiction, right? So ada tak peruntukan undang-undang bagi tahu kalau one party je setuju macam mana nak bawa and so on. So these are normally the issues yang akan dibawa dekat court untuk di-argue dalam moot, right? So as I explained to you earlier, there are two types of moot court. Number one is simulated court, and the other one is arbitration, right? So simulated court ni macam court yang selalu pergi tu dekat Putrajaya, dekat POJ ke, dekat mahkamah dekat your hometown ke, kat mana-mana, right? So, yang you tengok tu ialah simulated court, right? Court yang sama dengan the court setting is the same yang you selalu tengok, right? So tapi tak adalah yang pakai wig ni macam ni. So sekarang kita dah tak pakai wig, right? So kalau nak acah-acah, nak feeling tu boleh lah, right? So dalam moot, the councils ataupun peguam yang akan berhujah tu dia akan berdiri kat tengah-tengah, and judges dekat depan tu akan dengar you punya hujahan, right? This is moot in simulated court. So for arbitration, as I explained to you earlier, setting dia adalah dalam mahkamah tapi dia adalah informal situation whereby semua akan duduk, right? So bila nak berhujah dia tak akan bangun berdiri tak, right? Siapa yang akan berhujah tu dia akan duduk santai je dengan arbitrator. Yang hakim tu kita panggil arbitrator, right? So tapi you punya body language, facial expression and so on masih lagi sama walaupun you tak berdiri, right? So nanti kita akan tengok 6 examples. Now, the moot problem. So what does it mean by the moot problem? So bila you masuk moot, nanti you akan diberi moot problem. Moot problem ialah permasalahan moot in bahasa. So isu yang you nak kena bawa pergi court daripada fakta kes tu lah dia akan bagi, right? So kalau you masuk IMCC is Intramural Moot Court Competition yang FSU buat every year. So normally fakta kes yang dalam tu 2-3 helai je fakta kes. Yang macam yang you dapat tu, yang subject moot yang I handle tu, memang I buat 3 page je. Facts. Tapi kalau you masuk JESEP, during my time, JESEP moot, fakta kes je dah 30 helai. Fakta kes je. So you have to memorize all the facts and you have to know dekat mana fakta tu. Paragraf berapa, page number berapa, line number berapa dalam paragraf tu. Semua tu you kena tahu, right? The facts of the case must be within your fingertips, right? You kena tahu semua tu, right? So the judge will ask you questions based on the facts as well. For example, the judge akan tanya you, counsel, could you please enlighten the court? What does it mean by the word this and this in page ni, paragraph ni, right? So then you can explain, right? Or bila you berhujah dekat mahkamah, you cakap, my lord, for example, or your excellency, as can be seen in the facts, page 5, paragraph 12, line number 3, it states that apa, right? So all these facts you kena tahu, fingertips, right? So kalau you rasa mak 3-40 pages macam mana nak ingat tu, nanti I akan ajar macam mana nak faham dan nak tahu dan nak ingat facts of the case. So apa yang you belajar nanti dalam sesi ni you boleh juga apply dalam you punya kelas, right? So nanti I akan explain kat you in the later slides. So bila you dapat moot problem, at the same time you akan dapat rules and instructions. Rule and instruction ialah apa peraturan-peraturan yang you kena ikut dalam pertandingan moot tu, dalam moot tu, right? Let's say you nak prepare memorial, hujah bertulis tu. Berapa ribu perkataan you kena buat. font apa kena pakai, font berapa kena pakai, right? So semua tu dia akan bagi tahu. Bila kena hantar, kat mana kena hantar, jenis dokumen macam mana yang dia nak, dalam Microsoft Word ke, right, dalam PDF ke, alright. So apa tu, team number kena letak ke tak, right? Nama muter kena letak ke tidak. So all these adalah dalam rules and instructions, right? Ia akan dapat bersekali, right? So they must be strictly adhered to, right? Deduction of marks will be done, right? Kalau you tak apa tu, follow the rules and instructions, right? Macam yang you dapat documents tu, right? Now, this is the first part, right? So dah habis first part. Nak take 5 ke? Tu kita sambung je. Semua dah tidur dah.
No.
Take 5.
Kita take 5 dulu
Okay.
Okay, so kita take 5 and then nanti kita sambung on preparing the memorial, right? Ada 174 slide ni. So please bear with me. It's going to be a long day, right? So kita take 5, nanti kita sambung balik.
Tak ada participant.
10 ni, so bolehlah ada semangat sikit nak masuk. Can we continue?
Yes, yes.
Right. So kalau habis awal first part ni, bolehlah kita berhenti awal. Now. So for the first part of the discussion, so I akan explain dekat you dalam mooting or in mooting, we have a number of stages, right? So I'll explain to you the first or dealing with preparing for memorials, right? And then the last two stages, stage 3 and stage 4, deal with oral submissions, right? So for today's session, I can explain dekat you on the first 3 stages. So these are the stages. The pre-stage is on legal methodology and also to the problem, right? Stage 2 is about drafting the memorials or memorandum. Stage 4 is on preparing for oral submissions, and lastly, the oral submission. I mean the day of the oral submission. So we will look at the pre-stage dulu. Now, so pre-stage ni, I nak explain dekat you, right? But you kena utilize fungsi-fungsi dalam Microsoft Word tu in order for you to produce or to edit your document, right? So those yang masuk Mood, I akan explain dekat you macam mana nak pakai Microsoft Word tu dengan sebaik mungkin, so that bila you buat assignment nanti, or you buat reports, or you buat memorial, you tulis surat ke apa ke, then dokumen you hasilkan tu ialah satu dokumen yang yang cantik, right? The finest document that ever been produced by you, right? You akan compare sebelum you masuk Mood yang selepas you masuk Mood. Macam mana you buat you punya assignment or reports or you punya essay. Now, legal methodology, right? So bila you masuk Mood, you akan diajar macam how to conduct a legal research, right? Macam mana you nak cari bahan untuk buat memorial, right? And also untuk prepare for your oral submissions, right? So sebagai seorang as a law student, like it or not, you have to, you will need to have a very good legal methodology background, right? You kena tahu kat mana nak cari, macam mana nak cari. Whether bahan yang you jumpa tu, whether the laws or whether the cases yang you jumpa tu is a good law or not. Boleh pakai lagi ke tidak case tu, right? All this you kena tahu, right? The hierarchy of courts. Right, dulu you just belajar je, okay, hierarchy of courts. Magistrate court, sessions court, high court, court of appeal, federal court. But macam mana nak make sense everything? Because bila you moot, for example, let's say you moot dekat court of appeal, right? You daripada decision high court, you nak appeal bawa pergi federal, court of appeal. Lepas tu you cari authority, you cite case high court. So you nak kena tahu the hierarchy of the courts, binding precedent, stare decisis system. Whether the lower court's decision binds the lower court or the higher court or not. So memanglah tak akan bind, right? So kalau you cite decisions from the lower courts and at the same time you are submitting before a court which is higher than case yang you bawa tu sebagai authority tu, maknanya you mengundang makian daripada judge. Because you are citing a wrong law, right? So in order for you to submit a good case, whether you are submitting the case at the same level, horizontal hierarchy, or you submit yang lagi atas, right? Daripada federal court judgment, whereby the federal court judgment will bind the lower court. So since court of appeal yang you submit tu, yang you tengah bawa case tu, lagi bawah daripada federal court. So like it or not, the court of appeal must listen to the federal court. But even if you bring the case dekat sama level sekalipun, alright, let's say, one party argue case federal court, right? So the other party tak boleh mengalah lagi, right? Dia kena lawan case federal court juga, right? So dia kena cari latest case or latest decision from the federal court, whether the latest judgment dah overrule the previous federal court judgment. Right? So dia kena lawan. Or kalau tak ada jumpa juga sekalipun case yang baru dah overrule case yang lama, dia kena question salah sebenarnya yang orang tu cite. Court cakap sebenarnya macam ni, bukan yang macam tu. Right? So court ada lagi interpretation lain. Court ada lagi decide yang benda lain. Bukan benda tu je. Right? To that extent you kena tahu. Right? Tu. So apa tu skill untuk legal method tu you nak kena diasah. Right? Masa you masuk moot especially. So you must know where to find legal authorities. Alright? So for the time being you dah tahu buka legis you tu. Right? But macam mana nak cari, macam mana nak baca simbol and so on, right? Macam mana nak tahu legislation yang di-refer, right? Macam mana nak cari cases yang dah dirujuk untuk argue dalam case tu and so on. Buku mana yang boleh dipakai, journal articles mana yang boleh dipakai and so on, right? So kat mana nak cari buku-buku ataupun journal-journal artikel ni untuk support you punya research. So all these deal with legal methodology. Macam mana nak cari bahan rujukan undang-undang, right? So normally where to find secondary sources, right? Normally we find by using Google Scholars, right? So nanti you buka je Google you tu, just type je Google Scholars. So nanti kalau ada sesi lebih nanti akan tunjuk kat you macam mana nak pakai Google Scholar tu. Macam mana nak cari dekat Google Scholar. Google Book, right? So dekat Google Book pun we still can have access to a number of pages of the book, right? And then online database. For example, LexisNexis or Hain Online. So all these online database akan bagi you rujukan secondary sources, journal articles. So normally we do research from secondary sources. Journal artikel yang you dapat, buku yang you dapat tu, buku undang-undang tu, penulis buku tu, the author of the journal or the author of the book, dia akan tulis dalam tu and then dia akan cite authorities. Dia akan bagi example, case tu, case ni, section tu, section ni, right? So you tak payah pening kepala dah, you baca yang dia beritahu tu je, right? So dia beritahu case ni, then you carilah case tu yang dia sebut tu, right? So dalam footnote dia tu, dalam nota kaki dia tu, reference yang dia bagi tu, dia bagi tahu judgement yang dia cite tu dekat page 3 ke, page 10 ke, page 50 ke. Then dia dah tolong you dah dekat page ni yang benda yang dia cakap tu. So you buka, you cari the original source tu, bukalah muka surat yang dia bagi tahu tu. Right? So memudahkan kerja you. Right? So how do you do it? So nanti kalau ada masa nanti saya ajar you. Right? So Google search engine. So pakai Google biasa pun boleh, right? But tapisan dia haruslah dibuat, must be made, right? But you have to remember, bila you cari journal articles tu, tak kira lah dekat LexisNexis ke, Hain Online ke, all the sources dia akan trace back daripada tahun 90-an, right? Daripada tahun 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, right? 2000, 2001. So semua ni ada dalam tu. But you kena tapis lagi you punya bahan tu. So that bila you ambil rujukan yang lama, takut nanti court dah buat keputusan yang baru. Ada development in law, right? Mahkamah dah buat keputusan contrary or going against apa yang dah dibuat dulu. Because zaman dah berubah, right? Keputusan baru harus dibuat, right? Ataupun protokol undang-undang dah dibuat yang baru. Ataupun amendments dah dibuat kepada provisions of the law. So apa yang dah ditulis dulu tu dah tak valid. So you nak kena cari bahan yang terbaru, right? The latest source or latest sources in order for you to know the outstanding of the current of the status quo of the law. So kalau you dapat status quo of the law tu, so apa yang you hujahkan tu ialah the latest or the recent development in law. So kalau you set case yang lama, silap-silap case yang baru tu court dah overrule dah pun, right? Court dah depart dah pun daripada keputusan yang lama. So bila if that happen, apa yang you cite tu is a wrong law, right? Is already invalid law, dah tak boleh pakai, right? So nanti you akan mengundang makian lepas tu, right? So you kena cari something yang up to date. So by reading the secondary sources, bila you baca secondary sources from the books or from the journal articles tu, you will come across the primary sources. Why? The author will sign or will mention in that journal or in that article, in that book, case apa, muka surat berapa, citation apa, semua tu dah ada kat dalam tu. Session apa, alright, akta apa, perlembagaan ke apa ke, semua dia bagi tahu. Right? So bila dia dah bagi tahu, barulah you cari balik. You go and search the primary source. Right? Bahan asal dia tu. Case apa yang dia cite? Contoh, dia cite case Ali against Abu 2020 1 MLJ 111. Alright, dia dah beritahu dah citation kat situ. So you buka lah LexisNexis you type Ali against Abu 2020 1 MLJ 111. MLJ pun bagi nama case. Then download the whole case tu. So you dapat the primary source, right? You dapat sumber rujukan asli, right? So dekat dalam tu dia bagi tahu, okay, dia rujuk perenggan 50 keputusan mahkamah tu, right? Untuk argument ni, untuk point ni. You pun pergi tengok, double check. Betul ke tidak? Paragraf 50 tu, betul ke tidak court cakap sama dengan apa yang ditulis tu? Right? You kena double check. Right? Sometimes author tu pun dia silap, right? Kadang dia tulis paragraf 50, padahal yang sebenarnya paragraf 51. So you must double check, right? Sometimes apa yang ditulis dalam jurnal artikel, dalam buku tak semestinya tepat, right? So you kena double check balik, right? So that is why nama dia research, right? You kena cari balik, semak balik, right? You kena check balik, right? Betul ke tidak? Right? So bila dah betul, bila dah jumpa benda tu, then you get your primary sources, right? So secondary sources tadi tu membantu you untuk cari bahan asal. So dalam Moot, your arguments must be based purely or solely on primary sources. Secondary sources tu last resort you dah, right? Untuk support you punya argument boleh, tapi it cannot be your main argument. You tak boleh nak argue mainly based on buku, right? Author ni cakap apa, professor tu cakap apa. You cannot do that. In Moot, it must be based on legal arguments, right? You have to remember, legal arguments must be based on legal sources. What are legal sources? Statutes, cases, or constitution, right? Kalau dalam if it is in Malaysian context. So ini hanyalah rujukan you, right? But to support you punya primary sources ni, barulah you boleh support daripada jurnal ni, buku ni, right? Profesor tu pun cakap benda yang sama, right? Contoh, right? But your main arguments, your main sources will be the primary sources. Rujukan asal daripada case law, daripada statutes, daripada constitution, right? So, but you are utilizing the second resources because you tak ada masa nak belik semua tu, and then you tak tahu pun apa interpretation setiap perkataan dalam provision of the law tu, right? So, author dalam journal tu yang tolong you bagi tahu dalam case tu kau cakap macam ni, dalam case ni kau cakap macam ni, right? So dia dah bagi tahu dah all the interpretation from various cases. So tugas you ialah cari balik rujukan-rujukan yang dibuat tu dan dapatkan rujukan asal tu, right? From there you will get the primary sources, right? So bila you dah download those sources daripada LexisNexis you tu, for example, terus rename. Bila you download, normally you download dekat Google ke dekat mana-mana, nama dekat PDF tu dia bukan nama asal, dia akan jadi number sometimes. 5478_789 ABCD lah, apalah semua tu, right? So nanti nak cari balik dokumen tu, nanti you pening kepala, right? Because nama tu tak sama. So the first thing to do is that bila you dah download you punya references tu, terus rename. Kalau nama case, terus you rename nama case tu. Ali against Abu dalam kurungan 2020 1 MLJ 111 dah. Dah rename dah siap-siap. So next time bila you nak cari balik case tu, you search je dekat komputer you tu, komputer you dah terus boleh cari that document because you dah rename. Kalau you tak rename, nanti dia akan jadi nama asal tu yang ada nama-nama macam-macam tu. So you pun confused, komputer pun tak boleh cari untuk you, right? Dah buang masa nak scroll satu-satu cari-cari, right? Do not waste your time, right? So not only you will be applying this for your Moot punya subject or Moot punya competitions nanti, but also untuk kelas-kelas yang lain, untuk assignments and so on. So separate those documents according to their natures. Cases, statutes, constitution, treaties, etc. Bila you dah download, let's say you dah download cases kan, so you buat satu folder dalam you punya laptop tu, kalau boleh, my advice is that you adalah clouds ke, Dropbox ke, Google Drive ke, simpan dalam tu. So if anything happen to your computer, you will have backups. Benda tu still available online. So kalau laptop you dah jahanam rosak, nanti dengan dokumen-dokumen tu sekali masalah, right? Simpan dekat online, right? So bila you dah ada dalam folder khas tu, let's say you letak dalam tu cases. So you letak dalam semua cases kat dalam tu. So look, after that, bila you nak cari balik case-case yang mana-mana, you akan straight away go to that particular folder, right? So dalam tu dia akan susun ikut alphabetical order. So kalau you nak cari case Rahman, start dengan R. So you scroll dah cari R kat mana? Okay, ni R. Senang nak cari, right? So let's say case tu ada banyak sangat. Let's say you dah download 100 case for example. Let's say you dah download 100 case. So dalam folder cases tu, you pecahkanlah kepada subfolder yang lain. You letaklah, okay, issue apa? Okay, issue mensrea for example. Then ada 10 case mensrea. Letak dalam folder mensrea. Folder issue actor serious for example. Then cases yang pasal actor serious tu masuk ke dalam tu. Right? So bila lepas tu you nak cari okay pasal mensrea, pergi folder mensrea tu je. So dia dah tapi sama you, right? So you sendiri dah ada your own database, right? So lagi senang you nak buat research, lagi senang you nak menulis, lagi senang you nak study, lagi senang you nak baca lepas tu. Kalau you tak buat macam tu, nanti nak kena scroll satu-satu, right? Itu at least kalau you dah rename dah senang dah. What if kalau you tak rename? Kalau buatnya ada 100 dokumen tu, you nak klik satu-satu tu, right? Dah buang masa you dah kat situ, right? So all this you kena bear in mind, right? You kena ada satu database yang systematic, right? So for an easy reference. So that is on the part of legal method, right? So you must also know and understand how does the court's hierarchy works, right? So macam I bagi tahu tu tadi. Alright, kita tahu hierarchy of courts dekat Malaysia. Magistrate courts, court of sessions court, high court, court of appeal, federal court. Tapi macam mana dia ni, dia punya binding precedent, right? Yang mana mengikat, yang mana tak diikat, yang mana yang akan diikat, yang mana yang akan terikat dan sebagainya, right? What if dia sama level and so on. So all this you kena faham dan you kena tahu macam mana dia bergerak, right? Kalau dalam kelas you hanya tahu atau you hanya hafal, okay, binding precedent macam ni, courts hierarchy macam ni, okay, stare decisis, ini maksud dia, okay. Tapi you tak tahu macam mana nak apply dia, right? Macam mana nak make sense all this knowledge yang you dah belajar tu, right? So dalam Moot you akan faham, you kena faham dan you kena aplikasi or you must apply all this, right? Macam I explain dekat you tadi, bila when you are submitting a case before a court of appeal, then you cannot cite cases from the high court because the high court's judgment will not bind the court of appeal because the court of appeal is higher than the high court, right? So like it or not, you either cite the same hierarchy of courts, i.e. the high court, the court of appeal judgment, the previous high court's, the previous court of appeal judgment, or the court which is higher than the court of appeal, i.e. the federal court, right? So all these you must mix, right? So you kena tahu, right? So whether certain authorities or courts judgment will be binding on certain courts, right? Adakah high court judgment akan bind court of appeal? Adakah federal court akan bind the court of appeal, right? What if there are two federal court judgment, right? Yang latest tu dah tak sama dengan yang dulu. So which one nak pakai, right? Which one yang boleh pakai? Which one is a good law and all this, right? So dalam kelas you hanya belajar, but in Moot you apply semua tu, right? So bila you dah tahu, if you dah well versed with all the games, right? With all the applications, You punya application and explanation dah jadi fingertips you dah. Right? Dia akan cepat je. Right? So dia akan macam you nak masak lah. First time you nak masak, nak masuk mana dulu apa tu, tumis bawang dulu ke, masuk rempah dulu. Right? So bila you dah mahir benda tu, you campak-campak je. Right? Kalau dulu nak letak garam pun takut termasin ke, nak letak gula pun takut termanis. Right? But bila you dah mahir, you tak tengok pun, ambil campak. Right? So because you dah well versed benda tu. So the process is most important. Right? So lagi banyak you masuk Mood, atau lagi banyak you involve in Mood especially, you akan improve yourself. Bila you dah improve yourself, you are makin mahir dengan benda-benda itu semua. So at the end of the day, you akan jadi mahir. Right? So dengar je orang tu cakap, terus je kepala you akan proses. Right? Dengar je orang tu sebut tu, terus you proses. Right? So inilah yang tak diperolehi oleh other students. Right? Now, second part on the pre-stage is Microsoft Word. Now, bila you dah download all the sources, all the statutes, all the cases and so on, now you nak kena draft you punya memorial, right? Kalau you tak masuk Mood sekalipun, you nak buat assignment gitu, right? You dah ada bahan-bahan untuk assignment gitu. Now, you nak start menulis, buat assignment, buat report, right? Buat memorial for instance. So you nak kena pakai Microsoft Word, right? So dalam Microsoft Word dia ada macam-macam tools yang boleh dipakai untuk memudahkan urusan you, right? Untuk generate certain things, especially table of contents and so on. Right? Nak page break macam mana, right? Nak tukar nak make sure paging tu ikut order, right? Ataupun first you nak pakai Roman and later on you nak pakai nama biasa and so on. So macam mana nak buat? So all this yang akan menentukan ialah Microsoft Word, right? So everything must be used via Microsoft Word. So all relevant functions or features in Microsoft Word must be utilized, right? So nanti kalau ada masa nanti I akan ataupun features of Microsoft Word yang selalu digunakan regardless whether you are preparing for the memorials or you are writing your reports or your assignments, right? All these must be siapa tu? Right, so all these you nak kena well versed, right? Especially macam mana nak pakai heading, the page break, right? Macam mana nak generate table of contents, right? Margins, right? Spacing, page number, right? Indent tak indent, alright? Nak italic tak italic, right? Berapa banyak nak kena indent, berapa banyak tak kena indent. So all this you akan belajar dalam Mood, right? So kalau I coach Mood competition, so I akan bagi bila dah draft memorial tu, untuk editing part tu memang akan memenatkan, because kalau you buat Mood dengan I ataupun or you ambil subjek dengan I akan ajar you semua benda ni, right? So titik ke, full stop ke, double space ke, apa ke, you kena beri you must give attention to it, right? Because benda-benda ni bila you tak bagi penekanan, if you didn't give any attention to all this, the examiner or the judge or lecturer yang baca assignment you ni, dia akan pissed off. Ni pun tak ada titik. Benda-benda kecil ni pun you dah salah buat, alright? Yang besar kecil ke, you tak justify paragraph ke, all this yang akan kacau dia punya mood untuk baca, right? Especially dalam Mood. Bila you tak jaga semua ni, the judge or the judges, when they read your memorial, so when they read your written submission, right? Full stop, there is no full stop, there is no comma, so many spacings, the space or the spacing is too wide, right? Alright, lepas tu font, sometimes the font pakai ni, right? Sometimes page lain font tukar benda lain pula. So these situations yang akan disturb their mood, right? So nanti you akan dia akan pissed off dengan you, right? When they look at your memorial, especially if in their judgment that the smallest thinker or the easiest part pun, you cannot give attention to what more the details, what more the references, what more the arguments, right? So all this will, will give a prejudgment or will make the judge to be judgmental, right? So you must bear in mind with all this. The same goes to your assignment. Whenever you are preparing for your assignment, make sure you give attention to all this. Why? Because first impression matters. Why? Because, before your lecturer, for example, read your assignment, the first thing they do is that they will flip-flop your assignment. They will look at your references, right? How many references do you have? How do you put your paragraphing, right? Whether the paragraph is too long or not, right? Whether you have the full stop, the comma and whatsoever, whether the spacing is too wide or not, right? All this. If the first impression is already good, then they will love your assignment at the first glance, right? Then they will start to read your assignment. But what if you have a terrible spacing? There is no full stop. The spacing is too wide. There is no the least references, right? Then their mood has been disturbed, right, by your first impression, right? Then they will have this prejudgmental mind that if all this is already not properly done, then your details, I mean the contents, will be much more worse than that, right? So these are first impression that to be given to your examiner or to those who are to read your works. Now we will go to the stage 1, i.e. the mood problem. Now, the mood problem. What is the mood problem? So nanti I can explain to you. Now, when you enter or you participate in a mood competition, you will receive the mood problem. So when you get the mood problem, you must read the mood problem individually, by yourself and also in a group, right? So first of all, that you must do is that you must skim and scan the mood problem. So have you received the mood problem that I gave to you? The copy or the example? Ada tak? Hakim ada pas kat dia orang tak, Hakim?
Ya, Doktor. Saya dah pas dalam.
All right, for example, this is the mood problem, right? So if you receive the mood problem, right, so you will see that the facts of the case inside the mood problem. So I tak tahu lagi boleh tengok ke tidak, right? So this is the mood problem. So you tak perlu pun, you don't need to read the mood problem. Bila you baru je dapat tu, just skim and scan the mood problem or look at the facts. Just skim dulu. Just go through dulu, right? Then identify the jurisdiction of the court first, right? So tahu dulu, check dulu, court mana yang you nak bawa case tu, right? Whether you will be bringing the case to the Court of Appeal or to the Federal Court. If it is an international court, then you must know which court, whether it is International Court of Justice or it is International Criminal Court. If it is in before arbitration, then which arbitration center that you will be bringing your case before. So when you know the jurisdiction of the court, then you will straight away identify in your mind that which authorities that will be used in your oral submissions and also in your memorials, right? Let's say you dapat let's say if you receive the mood problem, you skim and scan, for example, the one that you receive, right? The document that you receive, you check, oh, the case that will be brought is before the federal court. So in your mind that the authorities that must be submitted is the federal court case or the Supreme Court or the Privy Council. It cannot be lower than the federal court. Why? Because the lower court's judgment will not bind the federal court. It dah terus boleh terfikir dalam kepala itu, right? So all this, right? So then when you know the jurisdiction of the court, then check the legal issue. What are the legal issues that must be mooted, that must be argued? So to know where the legal issues are located, they will be located at the last page of your mood problem, right? Dia akan bagi tahu issues apa, right? Number 1, number 2, number 3. Dia akan bagi tahu siap-siap, right? So it will be mentioned, right? Accordingly, right? So let's say kalau ada 2, then seorang dalam mood akan ada 2 muter, right? So the first muter akan deal dengan first issue, second muter akan deal dengan second issue. If there are 4 issues, then 2 issues each. If there are 5 issues, then the first muter will deal with the first 3, then the remaining 2 will be dealt by the second muter. Or the first muter will deal with the first 2, and then the remaining 3 will be dealt by the last muter or by the second muter, right? Depending on how many legal issues that are available at the moot problem, right? And then bila you dah tahu dah jurisdiction, when you already know the legal issues, barulah you start baca facts of the case thoroughly in details, right? Because you dah tahu dah, okay, jurisdiction court ni, authorities apa nak kena pakai, and then what are the legal issues. Now the reason why you kena tahu jurisdiction dulu and then apa isunya ialah, whenever you read the facts of the case, whenever you came across to a relevant facts, you dah tahu the facts tu will answer that that particular issue. That facts is of material or is of importance to that particular issue, right? So kalau you tak tahu issue at the first place, then you akan baca je, ya, dan you akan hanyut. You tak tahu yang mana satu, right? Then bila at the end of the day you baru tahu you baru tahu issue tu, and then you nak kena patah balik, nak kena baca balik lagi sekali. So dah membuang masa you, right? So what you must do is that look at the jurisdiction of the court first, and then look at the legal issues, and then baru you start baca facts of the case, right? So when you start to read the facts of the case, whenever you came across the relevant facts to those issues, terus je you tanda dekat situ. You nak buat bulat ke, you nak letak star ke, you nak highlight ke, whatever, or you letak number. Let's say facts in page 2, paragraph 7, for example, is of important to issue number 1. You pun letak number 1 kat situ. So whenever you nak discuss balik issue number 1, terus je you tengok, okay, ada tak yang number 1 dekat dalam yang you dah conteng tu. So these are all material facts or important facts to discuss or to argue on issue number 1. And the list goes and on, right? So samalah dengan issue with the remaining issues, right? This is how you read the moot problem, okay? Now, reading the moot problem. So macam I beritahu tadi, skim and scan. I just identify the jurisdiction and then master the facts. Now, understanding the issues and sketching and drawing. Nanti I akan explain kat you satu-satu, right? Pasal how do we extract the relevant facts from the main moot problem into a new document and so on, right? But before that, I would like to highlight and explain to you on special terms used or principles used in the moot problem. Sometimes when you receive a moot problem, there are certain terms that have been used or that have been mentioned in the moot problem, right? Number 1, legal terms, right? So sometimes the facts it mentioned about, for example, sorry? Ada soalan? Ada soalan ke?
No.
Alright.
No.
Right, sorry. So sometimes in the moot problem, certain legal terms have been used. For example, beyond reasonable doubt or balance of probabilities, customary international law, and so on. So these are all legal terms, all right? So kalau boleh, you terus je highlight, right? Pakai highlighter or garis ke whatever or bulatkan, right? So sometimes these legal terms will determine on the arguments, right? So that particular term will be used to argue your case or whether that particular term will be in your favor or to destroy your submission or to destroy your arguments, right? So you must be very careful with legal terms. Secondly, Latin terms, right? Sometimes in the facts of the case, Latin words or Latin terms will be used. For example, lex loci, or forum convenience, terra nullius, parim parim non habet imperium, jus cogens, generalia specialibus non derogant, and so on, right? All these Latin terms yang you pernah belajar, right? You pernah belajar ataupun you never came across to it, right? Then please highlight and go and open your legal dictionary and cari apa. What does it mean by that Latin term, right? Perhaps that Latin term will determine whether it can be used to argue your case or will be in your favor or will destroy your arguments, right? So all these you must give attention to it. Sama juga whenever you involve in Sharia Moot, right? Moot Sharia, so there will be Islamic principles, right? Based on Qawaid Fiqhiyah and so on, right? Ditulis kat situ, la darar wala dirar ke whatever, right? All these terms, right? Sama juga, when will help you. It's either to help you to win the case or to argue your case or to build up your case, or whether that particular principle will not be in your favor, will destroy your submissions. So you must familiarize with all these terms, whether those terms are you already familiar with or you are not familiar with those terms, right? So you must get yourself familiarized or well-versed with that particular terms, right? So that whenever the judge is referring or the judges are referring to that terms, then straight away you understand what does it mean by that, right? Perhaps that during the oral submissions, the judge will ask you, counsel, could you please enlighten the court, what does it mean by this term? All right. So kalau you tak pernah dengar, you tak tahu, you tak pernah buka legal dictionary, tak pernah cari maksud dia, you do not know what does it mean, then how can you address the question? How will you be able to answer the question from the bench, right? So all these you must give attention to it, right? Now, the moot problems, right? So whatever facts given in the moot problem, it must be within your fingertips, right? You must know every single out of the facts. Which page, which paragraph, what does it say in that paragraph? What are the words mentioned in that paragraph? All right. What is the keyword mentioned in that particular paragraph, in that particular line of the paragraph? So everything must be within your fingertips. So you must know the facts of the case correctly, right? So you nak kena macam mana nak baca dan nak tahu, nak ingat semua facts ni ada ajar, right? So from the Moot problem, right, facts must be mastered and laws must be mastered as well, right? Not only the facts will determine your arguments, but the law to be utilized in order to argue on that particular facts. Nanti I ajar you on how to extract material facts from the Moot problem, right? So basically in the Moot problem, there are two types of facts, right? Relevant fact and irrelevant facts, right? So fakta yang relevant ataupun fakta yang penting dan fakta yang tak penting, yang tak ada kaitan pun, right? Something saja dia letak kat situ supaya nak confusekan you, right? Nak bagi nampak banyak, right? Sometimes dia akan bagi background, right? So background tu sometimes sometimes the background of the facts are irrelevant, right? So they just not confusekan you, right? So only facts which are material or relevant, right, to the issues, right, to the legal issues yang you nak argue tu, should be extracted and prioritized, right, for both drafting your memorials and for your oral submissions, right? So you must know which page of the fact is material, which paragraph of the fact is material to which issue, which line that is material, which word is material to your arguments, right? So you must question or you must be able also to address the issue of why, when, how many, how much, right? Sometimes depending on the facts of the case, it will mention to you why it happens, why it didn't happen, when it happens. All right, the date will be given to you. 1st March, this and this happened, and 10 days after, this happened. Right, next week this happened. Right, so all these facts will be mentioned in the problem. Then how many? If you are dealing with contracts, right? The facts will mention to you. Like for example, 10,000 pieces, right? 20,000 pieces, 100 kilograms, and so on. So everything will be mentioned. The date and the time, right? So if you are dealing with certain issues, you have to bear in mind that time is an essence, right? Especially contract, right? Because time is an essence. For example, the date stipulates that, for example, shipment must be made within 30 days, right? So you must bear in mind that which date is the date of production, for example, and when did the shipment has been made, right, by the vendor, for example. So you kena calculate lah, cukup ke tak 30 hari, within 30 hari ke tidak, right? If the contract says that it must be shipped within 30 days, and then kalau you kira tiba-tiba 31 hari, whether dah breach contract ke tidak. And even if 30 hari tu you kira, but let's say you letak dekat situ GMT itulah GMT ni lah, so then you nak kena calculate balik GMT tu dikira GMT yang mana. Alright, kalau dah dikira GMT tu, whether it is within 30 days ke ataupun dah exceed that 30 days. So all these material facts that you have to utilize, right? So every single words mentioned in the Moot problem are relevant and also irrelevant, so especially those which are relevant to your facts, your arguments, that you must utilize. So how to extract the relevant facts? So how to ensure that you have mastered the material facts, right? So let's say that this is the original Moot problem that you receive from the organizer, right, for the championship, for example. So let's say you buka-buka, you tengok paragraph 5, 10, 15, 20 je yang relevant to issue number 1. Let's say issue number 1, you yang akan deal dengan issue number 1, right? So you open up your Microsoft Word, just copy and paste those paragraphs only. Just copy and paste and extract paragraph 5, 10, 11, 15, and then put it in the Microsoft Word. Buat dalam satu page je, right? Let's say facts yang you dapat tu 5 page, but the relevant facts, which are the relevant facts which are relevant to issue number 1 are only paragraph 5, paragraph 10, paragraph 15, paragraph 20. Just copy and paste and extract those relevant facts only, paste it in a new document, right? And then print it out. So paragraph lain tu you dah tak payah pening kepala dah, right? Because the relevant facts yang you nak kena yang you nak kena master within your fingertips hanya 4 paragraph sahaja, right? So yang lain tu tolak tepi dulu, right? Yang lain tu tak penting sangat. Bila just tanya macam mana sekalipun, you always go back to the material facts which are relevant to that issue only, right? Sometimes the judge will ask you questions that they are trying to distract you from submitting your case. So it is up to you on how do you bring the court's attention back to the issue at hand, to the discussion that you are having at that moment, right? So after you have a separate document, now you will have 2 sets of Moot problem. Number 1 is the original copy and also the clarifications. Nanti I akan explain ke you apa benda clarification tu, right? And then the other copy will be the relevant facts to the issues, paragraphs and page yang you dah copy paste dalam new Microsoft Word tadi, right? So the relevant facts of the issues will be utilized more as compared to the original facts of the case, right? So these will make sure that you will be able to cross-refer to those facts very easily, not only to draft your memorials, but also during your oral submissions. Whenever the judge asks you on certain issue or on certain questions, right, then you will always counter or reply to the judge that Yang Amat Arif or my lord or your excellency is that in this fact, paragraph this, page this, it mentioned this and this, and the one that your excellency or your lordship has mentioned, is irrelevant because of this and this and this. So bila you dah master, then you dah tahu dah which one facts yang material, which facts are immaterial. Now, after you dah ready dengan the facts, then you must know the relevant laws, because to deal with Moot, then you must know relevant laws, the law or legal issues, legal arguments to be used in order to argue on those legal issues. Now, relevant laws, right? Sometimes, right, in some mooting competitions, they will give you the list of relevant laws to the issues, right? At the back of at the last page of the moot problem, for example, IHL, right, International Humanitarian Law Moot Court Competition. So only very recently yang diorang akan senaraikan apa treatise yang relevant to the issue. During my time, dia tak bagi tahu pun, pandai-pandai you lah cari sendiri, right? So if they list down all the relevant laws, then you hanya perlu refer and cari dalam those laws sahaja, right? If not, then you must identify on your own. You have to find on your own, right? So depending on the issues, relevant primary sources are such as from the treaties, right? Treaties is for international law, charters for international law, UN Charter, and so on. The Constitution or the statutes or other relevant enactments, right? The United Nations Security Council or United Nations General Assembly resolutions, customary international law, cases, and other primary sources, right? Daripada Parliament Hansards ke, right, from policy from the government ataupun website of the governments and so on. So all these will be your relevant primary sources, right? So all relevant laws must be mastered as well. Not only your facts, but also all these laws. Case apa, tahun berapa kena court decide. Facts of the case dalam case yang you refer to, apa jadi dalam tu. Court decide apa dalam case tu, right? Then you have to understand how do you apply the cases, whether that case is similar to the present case or not. How do you distinguish the facts from the previous facts, from the previous case with the present case, right? And whether it binds the present court or not, and so on. So all this must be well explained in your memorials and also in your oral submissions. The judge will ask you questions beyond your imaginations. Sometimes, let's say, for example, dalam jawapan exam, for example, let's say you belajar case that Islamic law is the law of the land. Ramalatun case, for example. So dalam assignment ke ataupun dalam jawapan exam you will only put that in Rama against Latun, the court held that, or the Privy Council held that Islamic law is the law of the land. So as such, Islamic law is the law of this country since then, for example. But in oral submission, in mooting, or in moot, the judge will ask you, counsel, could you please tell the court what happened in Ramah against Latun? So you nak kena cerita lah apa yang berlaku dalam Ramah and Latun, right? Dia orang curi something ke, alright? Dia rogol orang ke, alright? Rogol apa, guna apa, alright? All these facts yang you kena explain dekat court, right? Not only just citing the relevant part of the judgment, no, right? You kena tahu selok belok case tu. That is why it has been called as reading the law. You must read every single passage of the facts of the case, right? You kena tahu apa jadi daripada awal sampailah habis, right? Judge cakap apa, kenapa judge decide macam tu, and so on. So all this you must know, right? Must be well explained. Now, strategies to find the law, right? So as I explained to you earlier at the pre-stage, that you must be able to master the legal method, a legal methodology. That whenever you try to find primary sources, always start with secondary sources. Wikipedia is also a good secondary sources for you to find the primary sources. Sometimes you nak tahu apa maksud lex judicata, for example, ataupun you nak tahu maksud lex loci, right? So dalam Wikipedia ada beritahu lex loci ni ini maksud dia. Alright, it begins dekat sini, right? Dalam case ni kau cakap macam ni. So di Wikipedia sometimes dia bagi tahu basic information, basic understanding. So senang untuk you faham. But never ever cite Wikipedia in your memorial. Right? You punya assignment pun sama. Never ever do that. You cite je dalam tu, you mengundang makian. Right? You mengundang makian and you mengundang failure for that particular paper. Right? So, but Wikipedia is a good source, is a good understanding for you. Start from there. Baca and faham dulu. And then from there dia bagi tahu a few examples dalam case tu, dalam case ni. Then start find the original sources tu. Bukalah Lexis tu, right? Hide online ke whatsoever, right? Go and find the primary sources, right? Whatever been mentioned by all these secondary sources, cari balik the primary sources. And then macam tadi lah, bila you dah download, you rename, bila dah rename, put it in a folder, right? Susun elok-elok. Bila you dah ada semua ni, then you will have your authority. So, but this authority must be translated into your memorial and also to prepare for your oral submissions, right? Semua ni nak kena ada dulu, right? Bahan-bahan tu, right? Macam-macam you nak masak lah, right? Bawang nak kena potong, cili nak kena potong, ayam nak kena siang, right? Bila dah siang tu, dia tak jadi lagi, right? Dia tak jadi lagi gulai, dia tak jadi lagi kari, right? So macam mana you nak jadikan semua bahan ni jadi kari atau jadi gulai, right? And then you nak kena start satu-satu, right? The same process. So I dah bagi tahu you tadi, right? Secondary sources, find the primary sources, right? The examples of from Google Scholars and so on. So I don't want to repeat myself again. Now, bila you cari secondary source, for example, you must always question the author's credentials. Betul ke penulis artikel ni, penulis jurnal ni, atau penulis buku ni ada authority dalam bidang tu, right? So how do we know whether the author is an authority in that particular area, right? So to know, you nak kena check berapa ramai orang dah cite apa tu paper dia ni, right? Dekat Google Scholar apa semua tu nanti dia ada beritahu. Nanti I ajar you, right? Or let's say certain author and certain books have been cited in many cases. For example, kalau you baca case law, right? Dalam LexisNexis tu, the court sometimes cross-refer to a number of author. Contoh, Augustine Paul, right? What else? Apa tu? Evidence tu, lupa dah, right? So a number of examples. So dalam ni ada, right? For example, Chitty, right? Chitty on contract, all right? Sucker on evidence, right? So the court will specifically mention these authors in the judgment, right? That the court refer to this author, this book, right? So bila court pun recognize these authors and then decide the case based on the interpretation given by these authors, then you may argue to the court that these authors are an authority in that particular area. Why? Because the court in the case of this and this also decided the case based on the interpretation given by these authors. As such, we submit that that particular author is an authority in this area, right? So this is how you argue the authoritativeness of that particular author. It cannot come from any Tom, Dick and Harry, right? Dia tak boleh nak siapa-siapa nak tulis, alright? Daripada blog mana-mana, right? So all these it cannot be, right? So the references must be questioned on his or her authoritative value, right? So you must know whether that particular person is an authority in the area or not, right? Right, ni, I bagi tahu tips, right? To know whether the authors of secondary sources have the authoritative values or not, some authors have been cited by the court or by the judge when deciding the case, right? So dalam case ni, so I ada ni dalam citation ni, 2015 6 MLJ 751 page 767. So the court ni I dah highlight dekat sini. Nevertheless, as has been aptly put by Professor L.A. Sheridan and Professor Harry E. Groves in their book, right, on the Constitution of Malaysia, 4th edition, page 74 and 74, right? That blah 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 blah, right? So the court pun dalam kes ni pun rujuk kepada Professor L.A. Sheridan and Professor Harry E. Groves. So bila you pakai L.A. Sheridan or Harry E. Groves article or book in your memorial or in your arguments, bila the court tanya, why should this court listen to this professor? So you may answer to the court that, yeah, Yang Amat Arif or my lord or my lady, right? The court in the case of Ali against Abu, for example, decided in 2015. The court referred to these two authors in deciding that particular case. And these references can be seen in paragraph berapa of that particular judgment. As such, we submit that these authors are authorities in this particular area. So you nak cakap yang court dalam kes tu pun rujuk profesor ni. Alright, so you nak cakap, so sebab itulah kami pun rujuk profesor ni juga, right? Sebab court yang dulu pun pernah rujuk profesor yang sama, because profesor tu and profesor ni ialah authority dalam area ni, right? Kalau you tak berjaya buktikan macam tu, then the court akan mengamuk lah. Court akan cakap dalam bahasa kasar, court akan cakap, why should this court listen to that bloody professor, right? So bila you tak boleh nak jawab, right? Kalau you tak ada jawapan yang nak membolehkan you justify kenapa you nak rujuk kepada interpretation daripada buku tu ataupun artikel tu, then habislah you kena maki, right? Habislah you kena marah, right? So authoritative values tadi macam I explain to you will be questioned, right, by the court on the authoritativeness of the author, right? So please be very careful. Kalau dalam exam writing, you just cakap je lah, Professor Syam Rahayu, Professor Syam Faruqi, Professor Samad ke whatever, say this. Dalam writing tak boleh nak question. But in oral submissions, right? Dalam presentation, oral submission especially, the court will have the time and opportunity to ask you, oh, who the hell is that professor? Why should this court listen to that professor, right? Is that professor is an authority in this area, right? Because the court cannot simply follow an opinion from any Tom, Dick, and Harry. So that particular person must be an authority in that particular area. Barulah the court can consider whether to apply or to adopt that particular interpretations from those authors. Now, having finished with the Moot problem, now we go to the clarifications to the Moot problem. Right. So whenever you receive the Moot problem, certain facts are vague, right, or unclear. So the participants normally will write to the organizer to seek for clarifications or to seek for explanation. What does it mean by this word in this paragraph in this page, right? What does it mean by this paragraph? What does it mean by this, right? Or they could also ask the organizer, does this fact means this, right? Does this mean facts? Does this facts mean this, right? So the organizer will clarify, will explain on the questions posed to them, right? So new set of document, a new set of document will be released as clarifications move to the second part of the discussion on the drafting of the memorials. Now, tadi you dah mahir dah buat legal research, you dah tahu dah macam mana nak pakai Microsoft Words, right? And then you know how to find the authorities and so on, right? Now, then you know already how to read the Moot problem, right? And you have received the clarifications to the Moot problem and so on. Now it is time for you to draft your memorial, right? Or your memorandum. So before we proceed to the discussion, then allow me to explain to you what does it mean by memorial or memorandum. So memorial is basically a skeleton of your arguments, right? So it is a written document prepared in advance, right? Before the oral submissions, right? You must submit your memorial in advance. For example, 2 or 3 weeks or 1 month before the oral submission, right? To the organizer. So these memorials or this written submission or memorial will summarize the issues to be addressed and the authorities that you will rely upon whenever you submit your oral submission later on, right? So your memorial will give you the structure and coherence to your oral submissions, right? So why did I use the word skeleton arguments? You have to remember that preparing your memorial must be made within certain word counts, right? So the organizer in the rules and instructions will tell you how many words must be written in your memorial. So whatever you write in your memorial must be clear, must be the memorial contents or including the footnotes and so on. So whatever you write in your memorial must not exceed those word counts. So apa yang you nak bagi tahu tu, itu je you cakap dalam tu. But in a proper address, in a proper explanation, right? Dia lebih kurang macam you jawab soalan exam you tu. You bagi tahu case, you bagi tahu principle. You bagi tahu case, you bagi tahu principle, right? But in a proper paragraphing, right? That is only skeleton of your arguments. The details, what happened in that case, the original text of the references of the legislation will be further explained during your oral submissions. So the oral submission will be much more scarier than your written submission, right? So memorial will aid or will help you for your oral submission, right? Because it will guide you on how will you structure your submissions. First, you will explain this, and then you will explain that, and then later on you will deal with the next points and so on, right? So all this, right, should not be prepared as verbatim script to be read out in public during oral submissions. So whatever you have prepared in your memorial, you cannot read them, right? So you must have eye contact with the judge and so on. Then you must be able to explain and expand whatever that you have written in your memorial, right? I will show you some of the examples. Right? So a good skeleton argument, user-friendly, clearly written, readable, properly structured, effective, and punchy, right? So not only you must prepare your memorial within a specific word counts. Whatever have been written, right, must be clear, must be readable, and must be properly structured. So whenever the court read your memorial, then the court will understand straight away what are you trying to say, which authority that you are using, what was or what is the principles behind that particular case, what is the provision of the law that you are citing, what is the provision is trying to deliver or trying to say, and so on, right? In a very summarizing way, right? It must be punchy, or it must explain the whole position of yours in order to answer that particular legal position, legal issue, right? So it serves a number of purposes, right? The two most important thing is that as your key arguments that will be run, right, that will be used in your oral submissions, and to enable the judge to prepare more effectively, right? When the court read your memorial, counsel is using this case. I have read that case. So I would like to know more about this case, or I will ask him in that case, right? Or the judge perhaps didn't never or haven't yet came across on that particular case. Then the court would like to know more about that particular case. Then the court will have this particular question in his mind during the oral submission, that the court will ask you, counsel, what does it mean by this case, or what happened in that case? Could you please tell us more about that case? Then you need to explain to the court, right? So it is kind of, giving the court also the chance to ask you questions. Right now, the contents of memorial. So this is the most important part of having a memorial or drafting a memorial. Now, there are 10 important parts that must be available in your memorial, right? It must be there in your memorial, right? The cover page, table of content, abbreviations, index of authorities, statement of jurisdiction, statement of facts, issues raised or questions presented, summary of arguments or pleadings, argument as advanced or pleadings, and also prayers for relief. What are they? I will explain to you one by one, right, in turn. Now, the cover page. So normally it consists of the team code or number. So if you ever involved in any mooting competition, you will be given your team number or your team code. Let's say number 2121, right? That will be your team code, right? You will not write down your where did you come from, right? Your institution. You will not write down the university's name, right, in the cover page. You will just write down your code number, right? Because dia tak nak ada double standard ke, right? Ataupun judge ada prejudgmental ke whatsoever, right? So only from the code. Sama juga macam you jawab soalan final exam. You will not write down your name, but your metric number, right? Because sometimes you bising dalam kelas ke, you selalu tidur dalam kelas ke, right? So lecturer dah mark you, right? So nanti tengok nama you, okay, for example, oh Hakim, tak suka lah Hakim ni, okay, I bagi you markah teguh. No, right? So you just only put down or write down your metric number. So whatever you presented in that particular paper, you will be judged accordingly, right? Bukannya judge you personally, right? The team number, the name of the court before which the parties are appearing, right? If, for example, dalam Moot problem yang you dapat contoh tu, it will be the federal court. So the name of the court that you are appearing before. The case number, if any. So dalam contoh yang you dapat tu ada case number, right? The names of the councils, right? Sometimes you are required to write down your name, right? Right, just the name, but not the name of the institution, just your name. So it is for the easy reference, right, to the court to call upon your name in order for you to come and speak to the court during your oral submissions, and also for an easy reference for marking purposes, right, to give you marks, right. Memorial form, whether it is for the applicant or plaintiff or defendant, depending on the facts of the case, right? The word counts, right? Remember just now I have told you that memorial with specific prepare your memorial, so you must count how many words that you have used in your memorials. So they will check twice, right? The first one is whatever number that you have put in your cover page. Let's say the maximum number is 2,200. So you put at the cover page 2,199, right? So then the organizer will double check whether it is actually really 2,199 or more or less, right? If it is less, then it's fine. But if it is more than that, then so before I go into the details, right? All the memorials must be produced, must be printed, right? Clean, neat, and tidy, because that is a first impression, right? Normal competitions, normally, you nak kena print out you punya memorial tu, right? You must submit the memorial 5 copies, for example, or 10 copies. So all these 10 copies, every page of every memorial must be clean and neat. Let's say you print out your memorial, lepas tu you put apa tu ink, the ink of the printer tu dia terkotor-kotor sikit. Then you have to reprint again, right? So you kena check every single page. Kotor sikit ke habislah you, right? Because that is your first impression, right? So it must be clean. So every single page, let's say memorial you tu ada 30 helai, setiap helaian 30 helai satu memorial tu you kena check. Habis satu memorial, go to the next copy of the memorial. Then check one by one, right? Ada kotor je page tu, reprint that particular page, right? Make sure every single page is clean and clear, right? So then you have to double check and the page number and so on. So I will show you some of the examples, right? So use page break in order for you to have the page number. So all the 10 contents of the memorials must be paged accordingly, right? So sebelum contents tu, sebelum isi yang penting tu, you akan pakai Roman number, right? Or ada yang you tak pakai numbering, right? Tak pakai page number, right? So all this must be separated, right? Page number must be separated using page break from the Microsoft Word. So kalau you tak tahu pakai page break tu, then you mesti kena tahu, right? Sama juga macam you buat you punya assignment, right? So nanti bila you dah master, you dah faham dah, you dah tahu dah, you dah well versed macam mana nak pakai page break ni, you akan pakai benda yang sama masa you buat assignments, right? For example, this is the cover page of the memorial, right? Right. So on your left, okay, dekat sini, if you look at the example, the code name, right? The code name, and then the R here, and this is the A, and this is the R. A means applicant or applicant, right? R is respondent, right? From the code, the name of the code, and the number, the case number, the parties, right? Who are the councils, right? And memorial for whom, and then the word counts, right? The word counts. These are the cover page of your memorial, right? So kalau biasa you buat assignment you yang lain, kalau I jadi judge, right? Ini adalah this is the example from the Moot subject, right? From the 4th year yang I ajar last year, right? 2019. I akan ambil pembaris, I akan ukur ni, sama ke tidak ni? Ada lebih ke tidak? Right? I akan ukur semua ni. Right? So every single thing yang ni I akan check. Right? So I nak tengok benda tu in order. Right? So these are among the examples. Right? So other examples, for example, for Philip C. Jessup International Law Moot Court Competition before the International Court of Justice. Right? This is an international court, right? So this is how we prepare the memorial, right? The same goes to the details, the team number, the name of the court, for the International Criminal Court, right? Mahkamah Jenayah Antarabangsa, right? Pun sama juga. The team court, the parties, the team members, and then the memorial for, and then the word counts. So for Jessup, Jessup is the word count for Jessup Moot is 7,000 words, right? Sometimes 9,000. During my time, it was 9,000. And then it has been reduced to 8 and then reduced to 7. But for IHL, they maintain parties, and then the memorial for whom, right? This is the cover page. Now, the next content that must be, or the next thing that must be available in the memorial is the table of content, right? So what is table of content? Obviously list of the contents in your memorial, right? Apa benda yang you buat, apa benda yang you tulis or produce dalam memorial you tu. So these are the tables, right? The list of the contents, right? It is recommended to use and customize or modify the heading and the table of contents in Microsoft Word to suit your style of writing. Easier to auto-generate your table of contents. So macam I cakap tadi lah, apa tu, certain functions of Microsoft Word boleh diguna untuk generate you punya memorial very easily, right? Especially table of contents. So first you must customize or modify tables or headings dalam you punya Microsoft Word dulu. Nanti I akan menunjuk dekat you if we have free time, right? Nanti macam mana nak pakai, macam mana nak edit, macam mana nak generate and so on, right? So it must be consistent throughout your memorials, right? Kalau dia kalau part tu italic, dia kena italic. Kalau part tu you bold, dia mesti bold. Kalau part tu dia kena capitalize, right? Perkataan besar je semua yang bahagian tu dia kena tulisan besar. Dia tak boleh besar kecil, besar kecil, besar kecil. Oh, dia tak boleh ada yang capital, ada yang tak capital. Ada yang bold, ada yang tak bold, ada yang italic, ada yang tak italic, right? So it must be consistent throughout, right? Because you nak persembahkan dokumen ni dekat mahkamah, right? So first impression, dia tengok je, tiba-tiba dia tengok je besar kecil, besar kecil, besar kecil. Macam itulah court akan tengok siapa yang tulis ni. Besar kecil, dia akan tengok orang ni, right? So all this must be consistently made, right, throughout your memorials, right? So kalau tak ada page number, tak ada page number. Kalau part tu yang ada Roman number, dia kena no Roman number, right? And so on. Right, for example, this is the table of contents for the last mood yang kelas mood yang you kena ambil nanti dengan I nanti, right? So this is a table of content, right? So kena tengok consistent. Dia capitalize and dia bold, dia semua ni mesti capitalize and bold, right? So first heading, we call it first heading, right? Right, kalau second heading, dia perkataan yang besar, huruf yang besar je dia akan besar, right? Nah, ni pun dah salah ni, ni tak consistent. Right? So kalau you tengok yang ada conteng, merah ni macam-macam merah ni, right? It must be consistent. And the page number on the right hand side, dia macam buku, contents of the books exactly the same, right? So kalau you masuk Moot nanti, you will be trained and you will be teach to do all this, right? Bila you dah mahir, you buat assignment you nanti, you akan produce macam buku, right? So lecturer you tengok pun macam, wah gempaknya student ni, right? You punya first impression, right? So these are the example, right? So ini yang ada page number. So the Roman number has been used, right, for the table of contents. Yang first part ni tak ada page number. So you kena consistent, right? So you must be consistent. Example for USIM Mooting, right? So these are the example of USIM Mooting, right? So these are the contents, right, of USIM Mooting punya tables, right? Ada 30 pages and so on, right? So you kena kemas, right? Kalau italic, you kena italic, right? Part yang italic kena italic, right? So part yang bold kena bold, right? All this must be consistent, right? Depending on the level of the heading, right? Heading 1, heading 2, heading 3, heading 4. So all this must be done correctly. For IHL, all right, example is like this, right? So this is a table of content, right? This is the next example. So for NAMCO mode, for arbitration mode, this is the content, right? So sama je, right? Consistency must be there, right? Now, the third part is the third thing that must be available in your memorial is the list or table of abbreviations. What does it mean by abbreviation? Abbreviation is the short forms that has been used in your memorial, right? if, for example, if you use MLJ, then you must mention the full name of MLJ as Malayan Law Journal. If you use PP, then you must mention the full name of PP is Public Prosecutor, right? Para stands for paragraph, etc. Right? For example, like this. This is a table of abbreviation. If you use COD, right? Remember, the reason why we use abbreviation ialah nak jimatkan perkataan. Ada word counts, remember? So kalau you pakai abbreviation, dia akan kira satu perkataan je. So kalau you pakai perkataan penuh, let's say cause of death dikira cause of death, 3 perkataan. So kalau you pakai COD dikira 1. So you dah jimat 2 perkataan, right? So COD kat sini ni kalau you tak bagi tahu cause of death, nanti dia akan cakap cash on delivery lah pula, right? So all these are your abbreviations, the short forms and also the full name, right? These are the examples, right? Example for IHL Moot, right? So all these must be available. Now, fourthly is index of authorities. So index of authorities, it is like bibliography where you list down all the list of your authorities, right? The cases, the statutes, the treaties, and so on. But index of authorities, you must mention which page of that case or which page that statute that you have cited in the pleadings in details, right? Paragraph, page berapa, case ni dirujuk, right? You know, and all the references, right? So you kena bagi tahu page berapa, right? For example, if you use penal code, for example, right, page Roman 4, page 3, page 9, right? Criminal Procedure Code, page 1, right? Course of Adjudication Act, page Roman 4. Case anda against State of Rajasthan, page 1, right? So kalau semua ni you kena bagi tahu dekat page mana you rujuk case ni. And the list of your authorities must be made in alphabetical order, right? So you nak kena susun lah A, B, C, D, E, F, G sampailah habis alphabet tu, right? So semua ni you nak kena edit you punya document manually, right? So it requires a lot of time and a lot of efforts, right? These are another examples, right? So examples for USIM Moot references. Okay, USIM Moot ni paling panjang, right? Jenuh nak buat benda ni, right? So ini. Okay, ini satu memorial je, 3 page. Index of authority 1, 2, 3. Ini satu contoh. Okay, contoh kedua, ini satu. Saya tunjuk satu je. So for IHL pun sama, right? Table of authorities, you kena asingkan ikut dia punya group dia. Right? Kalau statutes, treaties and rules, you letak semua kat dalam ni and in alphabetical order. So judicial decisions from International Criminal Court, list down ikut alphabetical order, right? And so on. For NAMCO competition pun sama juga. So all this must be done in order, right? So kalau you tak masuk mood, you tak pernah buat benda macam ni, assignment you lagi lah tergabung, right? You dah lah you buat last minute, right? Reference pula sikit, lepas tu font pula tak betul, sana sengit sini sengit, right? So benda tu yang membuatkan you tak pernah pun dapat score, right? Tak pernah dapat A pun, right? Because of all this, right? Now, the fifth part is statement of jurisdiction. So your statement of jurisdiction, you must tell or inform that that particular court or this particular court indeed has jurisdiction to hear and determine the case, right? For example, right? So dia tak panjang pun, right? Section berapa, right? Statute apa yang beritahu yang this court ada jurisdiction, right? Right. The same goes to USIM Moot, right? So dia bagi tahu artikel berapa of statute apa bagi tahu, right? IHL pun sama. Semua kena ada statement of jurisdiction. NAMCO pun ada sama, right? So all this must be written down. 6 is statement of facts. Statement of facts is basically summarizing the facts of the case. Let's say facts yang you dapat ni ada 6 page or 3 page or 5 page. So you must summarize the facts into only 1 page, right? You kena summarize the facts untuk menunjukkan benda tu betul berlaku atau nak menunjukkan benda tu tak pernah berlaku pun, right? So you must summarize depending on which party that you are representing, right? Kalau you nak betul nak suruh nak minta court acquit you punya client, then you summarize the facts yang menunjukkan klien you tak pernah buat pun benda tu, right? And kalau you nak suruh court tu decide yang yang accused tu bersalah, orang tu bersalah, then you kena summarize the facts yang menunjukkan memang orang tu buat, right? So these are the examples of statement of facts, right? So depending on the mood problem yang you dapat, right? Macam mana you nak susun tu depend on the types of mood problem and types of issues yang you dapat. Right? Jessup mood pun sama, right? So Jessup mood panjang sikit lah 2 pages, right? Because Jessup mood macam cakap tu tadi 20 pages. So macam mana you nak summarize 20 pages dalam 1 page? So it doesn't make sense, right? So normally Jessup mood kita buat dalam 4 page lah normally, right? Out of 20. Okay. So IHL pun sama, right? So the 2 pages, 3 pages. NAMCO pun sama, right? So since NAMCO deals with the issue of breach of contract, then again I dah bagi tahu you, I told you repeatedly that time is an essence. So the date must be written down, right? Apa yang berlaku between that date and that date, right? So all these dates too will determine whether orang tu dah breach contract ke tidak, right? Because time is an essence in contract, right? So you must summarize the facts accordingly. The 7th part you must mention in your memorial is issues raised or questions presented, right? These are the legal issues yang you dapat dalam mood problem, right? Yang I bagi tahu tu at the last page of the mood problem. So normally it starts with the word whether, right? So you must write down all the questions to be presented before the court, right? For example, whether blah blah blah, right? So normally let's say you receive 2 legal issues. So you nak pecahkan that 2 issues into 6 or 7, right? So you must list down all the sub issues dalam you punya memorial, right? Or you nak, if you would like to retain the original issue, then you may do so, right? So the same goes to Jessup mood, right? With the issues, right? HL NAMCO mood. So all these must be written down. And the most important part is your pleadings, is your arguments, right? So memorial will mostly depending on your pleadings. Pleadings is the summary of your arguments, right? Ini yang court akan baca dan tengok, right? So case apa yang you pakai, provision section mana yang you pakai, artikel berapa you pakai, you nak argue macam mana, alright? Apa judgment dalam case yang you cite to and all, right? So all this must be explained, right? For example, right? Okay. Summary of pleadings, alright? So sorry. So summary of pleadings is to summarize your main arguments, right? So you just bagi conclusion apa benda, right? Yang you nak argue tu. Breach ke tidak? Kenapa breach, right? Because of 1, 2, 3, right? Kenapa tak breach 1, 2, 3, right? So all these are your summary of pleadings, right? So sama juga dalam you punya Jessup mood, right? You put the summary of pleadings. What are the summary of your arguments, right? Kenapa breach contract sebab dia ni? Kenapa tak breach sebab ini, right? In a summary, right? The same goes to all the other competitions, right? All other moves, right? So just tak nak tengok yang panjang-panjang, sometimes dia akan tengok summary you je, right? Kenapa, right? Novice mood pun sama, right? They are summary, right? Now the pleadings, right? Your main arguments, right? So pleadings are the detailed explanation from the summary of pleadings. You akan bagi tahu name of the case, paragraph berapa, page berapa, section apa, legislation apa, right? And then you reply and you make sense with the facts of the case. All right, you apply into the facts at hand. Right, you have to bear in mind bila you pakai LexisNexis for example. So you must be aware of the signs, right? What does it mean by the word signs sebelum nama case ni? Okay, macam-macam sign ada kat tepi ni, right? What does it mean by those signs? So it means that all this. So I tak nak explain in detail. You may read on your own, right? So legal authorities must be explained in details in your pleadings, right? So which sections and so on, right? The paragraph of the pleadings tu must also be written down. Dia macam you baca case law yang setiap paragraph judgment tu dekat tepi tu ada numbering. Senang court nak refer, right? The same goes to your pleadings, right? Now, how to write your pleadings sama macam you jawab soalan exam you tu based on the ILC principle. What is the issue? The law, the application, and the conclusion, right? The law is normally divided into two. The section or the provision of the statute or the constitution, and also case law. And then you apply into the facts at hand, and then you conclude whether it breaches the contract or not, whether it fulfills the elements of the crime or not, right? Depending on the arguments that you are dealing with, right? So all this I will deal nanti dengan you guys masa you ambil kelas tengah I, right? Untuk legal methods and so on. Right? So citations in the pleadings, right? So you must mention the name of the case, whether fully or in short dalam pleadings you, and then you must put footnotes, the full citations in the footnotes, right? So such as this. For example, in the contents of your pleadings, you mention section 3 of the Evidence Act, itu je, right? Grossly against and another against public prosecutor, right? In italic, all this in italic. So in the footnotes, you must put for the statute, you can letak which act number. For the case law, you must put the full citation, which year, which volume, which citation or which journal, and then which page, which court, and which page that you are specifically referring to that case and which paragraph. So all this must be written in details. For example, ni dalam pleadings, right? So dalam case ni dia mention, for example, in arrest warrant anak lelaki Raju against public prosecutor. Then you letak number footnote. Dekat bawah ni dia akan letak footnotes, the full citation. 2019 MLJU 605 Federal Court, page 611, paragraph 32. So all the references will be cited in the footnotes, right? In details. Okay, macam you tengok journal, macam you tengok buku, macam itulah sedetail itulah yang akan buat you punya pleadings and memorials. Right? The same goes to the USIM Moot, right? Whatever references you will be citing in the footnotes, right? The details. Siapa yang menconting tu? Right? IHL pun sama. Right? So if you look at the footnotes, those are the details. Novice moot pun sama. Right? So you look at the references, these are the references, right? So okay, yang novice moot ni yang you tengok sekarang ni, most of the mooters yang masuk moot masa ni ialah first year and second year. Can you imagine first year dah boleh buat all this? Siapa yang second third year tu tak malu dengan first year second year yang buat ni, right? So if they can do it, right, you pun boleh buat benda yang sama, or even better, right? If you betul masuk and make yourself accordingly, right? Masuk mood and improve yourself. Okay. And lastly will be your prayers for relief. What will you seek from the court? Apa yang you nak court decide, right, on your behalf, right? So issues yang you raise tu. Bila issues raise yang you mention tu, you nak court jawab benda tu accordingly, right? And lastly, you will put down your signature, respectfully submitted counsels for the applicant or respondent or prosecutions and whatsoever, right? For example, these are all that you wanted from the counsels for the applicant wanted from the court, right? Sama lah dengan other international modes pun benda yang sama, right? Now, dah habis dah, right? Dah habis dah pun, 2-3 slide je lagi. Now, drafting a memorial. So to draft a memorial, dia tak boleh hanya satu draft saja. Samalah macam you buat you punya assignment. Kalau you ambil subjek dengan apa-apa subjek dengan I, never ever you nak berangan nak buat you punya assignment satu draft je. Sekarang ni nasib baiklah you tak you tak face to face. Kalau you face to face, I akan sebelum you hantar you punya assignment. Right? You kena tunjuk dekat I every time during tutorial or during the lecture time, your draft assignment. I akan check and betulkan, you pergi balik, you betulkan balik. Sebelum you really submit your assignment. Kalau you fail, you jangan salahkan I. Right? I memang, macam mana I di-train dulu, macam mana I judge memorial, judge any mood competitions and whatsoever, macam itulah I buat dekat student I. Right? So kalau you nak repeat subjek-subjek tu, you buatlah dengan I. Right? You nak buat last minute, you nak buat sambil lewa, cacar marba, kalau you ambil subjek dengan I dare you to do that. Right? So kalau you tak nak repeat, you buat. Right? Now, drafting a memorial, you must do it as soon as possible or as early as possible. And you must draft your memorial as many drafts as possible. Right? Lagi banyak draft you buat, lagi polish you punya document, lagi cantik you punya document. It cannot be just one attempt. The same goes to your assignment. Kalau you buat last minute, you just letak je for the sake of submitting, that's all. Betul ke salah ke, make sense ke, apa ke, citation betul ke salah ke, you dah tak kisah lah. Right? As long as you submit. Right? Janji lulus, janji lulus. So, betul, kalau dalam Moot, there's no such thing. Right? So, you must draft your memorial as many drafts as possible, right? So whenever you read case laws whatsoever, apa benda yang you jumpa, you rasa relevant, you copy paste masuk je dulu, right? Jadi banyak-banyak dulu pun tak apa. Nanti barulah you reconstruct you punya draft of your memorial untuk jadi satu draft yang bagus. The same goes to your assignment, right? Before you hantar assignment itu, you baca journal article, you rasa part tu sesuai, you copy paste, you letak je dulu, right? And then you terus cite, right? Then nanti you akan reconstruct you punya assignment tu accordingly so that you know dia akan ada flow of the presentations and so on, right? Barulah benda tu akan jadi a polished document. Barulah you dare to submit to your lecturer, right? So kalau orang lain, lecturer lain yang jenis tak kisah, tak apa, right? Kalau dengar I memang I check daripada muka surat depan sampai muka surat last sekali. 100 page pun 100 page lah I check. Right? Merah lah you punya assignment tu kalau you buat dengan I. Right? So memang I check detail. So proofreading and submission of your memorial. Right? So nanti kalau you dah buat memorial tu sendiri, you akan rasa shock sendiri. Mata you dah tak nampak dah all those errors. Alright? Kesalahan-kesalahan tu. So you need a fresh eye or fresh eyes to proofread your memorial. So orang lain check. Ada tak tertinggal full stop ke, terdouble space ke, margin lari ke, right? Sengit tak sengit ke, capitalize ke, tak capitalize ke. So you need different eyes to double check your memorial, right? Bila dah ada double check, right? Double checking, right? Dah ada proofread and so on, barulah you submit you punya memorial, right? When you submit to the organizer, when you submit your memorials to the organizer, then you will exchange the memorial. You will receive your opponent's memorial and your opponent will receive your memorials. So from there, you will prepare for your oral submissions, right? So dah habis kan? Okay. So ini rules untuk subject and just keep on this, right? Now, issues and main arguments and alternative arguments. Ni last part dah, I promise, right? Dah nak habis dah. Okay. So whenever you dapat mood problem tu, you will receive legal issues, right? But you have to be careful with the issues, right? Let's say you receive 2 issues in your mood problem. Ada 2 je. But when you read that particular legal issue very carefully, you will come across certain words, right? Yang betul membolehkan you untuk you divide or expand your submissions based on their conjunctions, right? What are these conjunctions, right? Normally conjunctions are connecting clauses or sentences, right? Conjunctions are normally in the sense of fanboys, right? I letak kat sini fanboys, FANBOYs. Fanboys, for example, in the legal issues or in the issues in the mood problem, akan ada perkataan for, and, no, but, or, yet, ataupun so, right? So all these are conjunctions, right? It carries different interpretations, right? As for right, it means that it is a similar meaning to because, right? Because of this, because of that, right? A or and, it carries the meaning of 2 things at the same time, right? So 2 or more things must be explained at the same time. No means joins 2 nouns that the subject of the sentence does not have or obtain, right? No this, no that, right? But that connects opposing ideas, right? It is this, but this, right? Or is the choice of options. So you must identify which one that you want to prove, right? Either this or either that, right? And Y is for yet, right? It's like but it emphasizes on the contrast even more, right? And lastly, so. So all these conjunctions will normally be used in the mood problem. So if you could open up your mood problem that I have given you, if you can have a look at the issues that I have highlighted, I use the number of conjunctions in the mood problem, right? For example, the one that you receive, right? Ada 2 issue, but in that issue, for example, in issue number A, right? I use conjunction and. All right. So whether Sedition Act being pre-medical legislation is valid and an enforceable act. So if I use the conjunction and, means that you must establish both. You must explain both. You must prove both the validity and also the enforceability. Right. For example, issue number 2, I use a number of conjunctions and, for, and end. Right. So all these conjunctions carries different meanings, right? So you must be very careful on all these conjunctions, right? The same goes to whenever you are reading any legal provisions, right? Conjunctions will be used, right? For example, different words have been used. For example, may or shall, right? So all these carries different weight, right? Carries different interpretations. So you must be very careful with all these words, right? Mentions in your issues, right? So for this one, I tak nak sentuh lah. So you may read on your own, right? So ini just further extension on the conjunctions that I have explained to you earlier, right? Now, when you are trying to, or when you are about to prepare for your memorial and your oral submissions, especially, you must be ready with all the WH questions, right? So in order to be prepared, well prepared for the oral submissions, right? All the WH questions, you must have all the answers, right? The who, the why, the when, the what, the how. So all these you kena ada jawapan, right? The court will ask you many questions. Why this? Why that? Who is this? Who is that? Right? When is this? When is that? Right? What is this? What is that? How does it this? How does it that? Right? So all these WH questions will come up from the court's mouth or from the judge's mouth, right? They will ask you the questions. So you must have all the answers based on these all WH questions from your own submission, right? For example, dalam case law yang you baca tu, let's say you read case law, for example, Ali against Abu. So you must know who is Ali, who is Abu, who is or who was the judge in that case, right? Why did the court decide in favor of Ali, or why did the court decide in favor of Abu, right? When did the court decide that case, right? 2005 ke 2015 ke, right? What was the ratio decidendi, right? What are the reasons behind, right? What happened in that case and so on, right? How much that that the parties have breached the contract, right? How about this? How about that? So the court will ask you just based on one case that all these WH questions can be asked by the judge, right? So semua ni you kena well prepared, right? Kalau you cite dalam memory you 100 case, maknanya dalam semua 100 case tu, semua WH questions tu you kena be ready. Let's say you cite 50 provisions from any legislations. Semua 50 sections tu you kena tahu semua the WH questions. Kenapa section tu, bila section tu dipas, kenapa parlimen pass section tu, right? Ada tak case yang court dah interpret case, you must know, right? Ini yang I cakap tu nerve-wracking, right? Nerve-wracking tu memang penat untuk prepare all this, but you will know more as compared to the other, right? After you have joined all this, right? For example, the issue on whether Sedition Act is being premedical legislation is valid, for example. Then with all the WH questions, you must ponder or you must think or you must foresee the questions from the court. What is pre-medical legislation, right? What makes a pre-medical legislation to be considered as pre-medical legislation? Or how do we determine whether a legislation is a pre-medical or not, right? Sehari sebelum merdeka ke, seminggu sebelum merdeka ke, all these justifications and answer you must know, right? What is the cut-off date to be pre-merdeka or post-merdeka, right? Is pre-merdeka legislation an act? If it does, why? If it does not, why? Right? So all these WH questions, the court will ask you, right? Atas, bawah, kiri, kanan, depan, belakang, dia akan tanya you macam-macam, right? So you nak submission you lagi, nak jawab soalan dia pun lagi, right? So all this you akan rasa beban masa oral submissions nanti, right? So all these are the examples. So you may have a look by yourself, right? Now, ni pun sama juga, right? I dah explain tadi tu yang main argument and sub arguments based on your conjunctions which have been used just now, right? So you may read on your own. Now, alternative arguments, right? So if you are arguing a yes answer, let's say that it is valid law, right? It is the contract is valid, right? For example, the contract is enforceable, for example, right? But the judge is still not convinced with you, right? Bila you explain macam-macam dekat judge tak makan dengan explanation you. Dia still macam wondering, right? Right? And the judge still think that the answer is no, right? Dia tak setuju dengan you. So all this you may see from the judge's reaction, the judge's facial expressions and body gestures and so on. So in order to argue your case, then you will provide an alternative arguments, right? You will rhetorically or pretentiously agree with the judge that even if the answer is still no, but still you submit that the answer is still yes because of other factors, right? In addition to whatever you have submitted earlier, right? So you may use the word even if and still, right? For example, even if the court, even if our client has breached or did not ship the bananas, for example, still we submit that the contract is still valid because you can justify of your because. look at the facts of the case and so on, and look at the other alternative arguments from any other judgments from any other courts. If you have alternative arguments, the judge will like you more. The same goes to whenever you are writing your exam scripts, all right? The question will be asked, valid or not, all right? Breach or not, all right? Liable or not, that's all right? So kalau you jawab yes or no, that is an ordinary answer. Itu jawapan selamat, jawapan yang semua orang buat. But you will go another step further. You may provide an alternative argument and you give a rhetoric answer or rhetoric answer which in contradict with your position, but you still argue on the same premise, right? So even if it is this, still it is that, right? So you may provide another perspective and you still justify that your answer will still be the same. If you have that alternative arguments or alternative answers in your exam scripts, for example, then you will be an extraordinary student, right? Because jawapan you go beyond the ordinary answer, right? You provide another step, right, of the answer. So all this I will explain to you whenever you are involved in any mooting competition. So I will explain to you and we will discuss together on all this, right? So on preparing a memorial, after 2 p.m., then we will see on how to address or how to submit your oral submission. So that part will be much more exciting as compared to the first part, because it deals with oral skills and oratory skills and also advocacy skills. So with that, I thank you and I will see you again at 2, right? If you have any questions, then I still open to all of you for the questions that will be posed or any clarifications needed. Asalan?
Sorry. Saya ada soalan. I have a question.
Yes, yes.
About the part of alternative arguments.
Yes.
Maksudnya dia macam it's like we actually telling someone, maksudnya macam kita seakan-akan setuju tapi kita membuat macam bagi dia satu andaian jawapan kalau betul benda tu pun jadi sebaliknya.
Betul. Contoh, I bagi you contoh yang you, yang your first argument, Aminah cantik. Lepas tu you nak cakap, even if Aminah ada parut dekat muka dia sekali, apa you nak cakap? Because parut dia tu ada bunga ke, alright, contoh. You nak cakap, Aminah cantik. Lepas tu you nak cakap, sungguh pun Aminah ada lesung pipit yang dalam ataupun ada tahi lalat besar ibu jari tu, still Aminah kelihatan cantik. Kenapa? Tahi lalat dia tu kelihatan manis. You nak justify juga walaupun ada kecacatan kat situ. That is your alternative arguments. Right? So you pusing, you punya tu, you menunjukkan to the negative, right, to the contrary, but yet you pusing balik, you go back to your original premise, your original answer, the yes or the no answer just now. Did you get my point?
Yes, thank you.
All right, perfect. Any other question? Soalan lain? Si korang ada penat kan? Bosannya dengan lecturer ni, bebe pula lagi ni. Dah lah, Ahad. Bebe pula main panjang. Yes, any other question? No. All right. So if you have no more questions, then I will see you guys again at 2 p.m. for more exciting parts that is on oral submissions. Right? So with that, I hope you guys will enjoy your lunch and go and have a break, and we'll see in 1.5 hours. Right? Thank you so much.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you,
Right,
Doctor.
bye.
Thank you, Doctor.
Bye.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you, Doctor.
Bye. Bye.
Alright, just to inform you, Now we
Yes.
will take a break before we finally continue to our second session. So I hope all of you can enter this room again by 2 p.m., especially some PB students, as we are really looking forward for your presence. So see you later at 2, everyone.
All right. Thank
you.
you.
Bye.
Enjoy your lunch.
Enjoy
Thank
your lunch,
you.
Doctor.
All right. See you again. Bye.
Bye. Thank you, Dr.